Chapter 1203. Published at 19th of September, 2023, 11:40 and 19 seconds AM. Chapter 1203. Chapter 1203 War 2. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1203 War 2. 1203 War 2. You don't need to give me an answer right away. Azure continued with a smile on her face after seeing Yuan's face. The Azure dragon family encourages its descendants to have multiple concubines because of their desire to grow bigger. This is one of the reasons why they were able to reach their current status, by joining bigger families and creating connections until they are at the very top. Unfortunately for her, Yuan had no intention of becoming someone's concubine. Without needing to even think about it, Yuan shook his head and spoke in a soft voice. I'm sorry, but I will have to refuse your offer. Azure's expression froze for a good moment after hearing his answer. After a moment of awkward silence, she tried her best to keep a smile on her face as she spoke. Can you give me your reasons? Is there anything I can do to change your mind? There really isn't any special reason for my refusal, and I don't think there is anything you can do to change my mind. Sorry. Yuan apologized again. Is that so? Azure immediately lowered her head with a dejected look on her face. Seeing this, Guoxing and Wang Jun became enraged. You bastard. You think you're hot shit because you're a little handsome. Guoxing slammed the table with his fists, causing the plates to jump. Know your place, you mere commoner. You should be rejoicing at the fact that someone like Azure would be willing to accept someone like you into her family. Wang Jun roared. Azure did not say anything regarding their remarks, almost as though she couldn't even hear them. Li Na and Zhu Ling exchanged worried glances with each other, as they did not like where the atmosphere was heading. The only person who was calm in the room was Yuan himself. He turned to look at Guoxing and Wang Jun and spoke in a nonchalant voice. Why are you upset that I refused her offer? Are the two of you, by any chance, her concubine? What? They looked surprised by his question. You're not. Yuan tilted his head with a puzzled look on his face. You are the first person I have made that offer to. Azure suddenly spoke in a low voice. Although neither Guoxing or Wang Jun were Azure's concubines, they were certainly aiming for such a position. Hence why they keep trying to appeal to her. After another moment of awkward silence, Yuan spoke. I am delighted that you think so much of me that you'd want me as your concubine even though we've only just met, but I cannot respond to your feelings. I am just not the type to live such a life. Heh. He probably thinks that he's too good to be a concubine, and wants to start his own family. Wang Jun sneered. Even if that were true, what's wrong with that? Yuan raised an eyebrow, and he continued. I don't see anything wrong with wanting to start a family. Though if you only care about status and your own standing, I can see why you care about that. You dare mock me? Wang Jun stood up with a red face, his peak spirit king cultivation gushing out of his body. Hey, calm down, Li Na exclaimed. Do not forget where we are. You'll be banned for life if you cause any trouble here. Zhu Ling added. Hearing their words, Wang Jun quickly calmed down. The Azure Dragon's retreat has connections to many influential people around the world because of their popularity, so it wasn't wise to cause a ruckus there. Yuan looked around the room in silence before picking up his cup of tea and drinking the rest of it in one motion. After placing the empty cup back down, he stood up and spoke. Looks like it's about time for me to go. Thank you for the meal. It was delicious. Wait. You think you can just leave whenever you please? Yuan raised an eyebrow and said, if you want me to pay for my food, I don't mind, even though it was supposed to be free. That's not what. Stop it. Azure suddenly interrupted. She stood up and faced Yuan. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean for things to get this hostile and awkward for you, and you have every right to refuse my offer, so don't worry about it. Of course, the meal is also on me. Azure tried her best to force a smile on her face, ending up with a stiff smile. Thank you. Yuan smiled back. If you ever change your mind, you can come to me. There will always be a spot for you, Azure said, clearly still not giving up on her offer. Yuan silently nodded. Just as Yuan turned around to walk away, a voice resounded in his head. You will regret offending me today. Yuan glanced at Wang Jun, who just spoke to him using divine sense. However, before he could say anything, another voice resounded, but it could be heard by everyone in the room. Yuan. Before anyone there could react, a shadow appeared from the window that Azure had jumped out of not too long ago. When they turned to look at the window, they were graced by a beautiful young woman with golden hair and eyes. Princess She. What are you doing here? Azure exclaimed in a surprised voice. However, she merely ignored her and walked straight to Yuan. Yuan. We need to leave immediately, she said to him. Yuan raised an eyebrow at her appearance. What's wrong? You don't look so good. Did something happen? He asked her. The Azure Dragon family waged war on the She family, she merely said, dropping this bomb on everyone in the room. What? Yuan's eyes widened with surprise. You heard me. The Azure Dragon family will be attacking soon, so we don't have much time to spare here. Let's hurry up and get out of here before they trap us in here. She merely repeated. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip, you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1204. Published at 19th of September 2023, 11:40 and 18 seconds AM. Chapter 1204. Chapter 1204 War 3. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1204 War 3. 1204 War 3. The room became dead silent after she merely revealed the news to Yuan, who stood there with a surprised look on his face. The silence eventually broke when Azure snapped out of her daze and exclaimed in a panicked voice. Please wait a moment. The Azure Dragon family wouldn't do something like. She merely snapped her gaze to Azure and spoke with a slight frown on her face. And who are you? Are you calling me a liar? And no. I simply think that there's been a misunderstanding. My friends call me Azure, but my name is Liang Lin, and I am from the Azure Dragon family. Mei's eyes radiated with killing intent the moment Azure mentioned being from the Azure Dragon family. Azure subconsciously stepped back with a fearful look on her face after sensing Mei's killing intent. Please calm down, she did nothing wrong. Yuan suddenly spoke. She merely turned to look at him with a surprised look on her face. Why are you protecting her? Now that I think about it, why are you even with someone from the Azure Dragon family? It's a coincidence that she invited me to a meal. That's all. Anyways, regarding the other matter, can you tell me a little more about what happened? She merely nodded and said, I will tell you on the way back. We cannot linger in this city for any longer, or things will get dangerous for the both of us. We have to get back to warn my parents and get ready for their attack. Yuan became silent as he began pondering. A moment later he spoke, Bring me to the Azure Dragon family. What? She merely exclaimed before continuing. Why would you want to do that? Yuan then said, If the Azure Dragon family is really waging war against the She family, why waste time going back when we can deal with it right now? We are already here anyway. Mei's jaw dropped after hearing his words. Are you being serious? There's no way we can handle this by ourselves. And we're not just fighting the Azure Dragon family. The Emerald Dragon family is also working with them. Emerald Dragon family? Who are they? Yuan asked, as this was his first time hearing about them. They rule over the third largest city in this realm. They may not be as big as the Azure Dragon family, but they are still a force to be reckoned with. Are they in this city right now? Yuan then asked. No, I don't think so. Then there's nothing to be worried about. We can deal with them after we are done here. That's still suicidal. The Azure family has 3 spirit sovereigns, 19 spirit emperors, and over 3,000 spirit kings. We simply cannot deal with that much by ourselves. 3 spirit sovereigns, huh? Are they stronger than your mother? Yuan suddenly asked. Well, no, I don't think so. My mother has much more experience, superior techniques, and a superior bloodline. If my mother were to fight against them, she could probably take on 2 of them by herself. Yuan smiled after hearing this information, and he said in a confident voice, Then there's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about? Mei was baffled by his confidence. Do you trust me? Yuan suddenly asked her. Of course I do, But this isn't just about that. At the end of the day, you're still a guest in our family. I cannot let you bear such a big responsibility and put your life at risk, she merely said with a worried look on her face. Yuan chuckled. You are thinking too much about it. In my eyes, my friend is in danger, and I only want to help her. It's as simple as that. Anyways, let's get going. We are in a hurry, right? She merely was speechless. She knew that she would endanger the both of them if she listened to Yuan's suggestion, yet she couldn't refuse him for some reason. Oh, she nodded in a dazed manner before walking towards the window. Yuan followed her. Yuan, who are you really? Azure couldn't help but ask him as he walked past her. He looked at her and responded in a calm voice. I was just your average tourist until moments ago. Azure's eyes widened, and she continued after swallowing nervously. Then what are you now? I don't know yet. Yuan then left the restaurant through the window, following behind Shi Meili. Many moments after they left, Azure and the others snapped out of their daze. What should we do now? If the Azure Dragon family is really going to war with the Shi family, things will get really messy for all of us. Lina began panicking when she realized the severity of their situation. A war between two of the biggest powers in the realm would affect everyone, even those who don't partake in the war. I don't know, but there's nothing we can do about it. Azure sighed. In the end, Azure decided to return to her family to catch up with the situation. On their way to the Azure Dragon family, she merely explained the whole situation to Yuan, who would gradually become more angry as he learned more about the situation. Sometime later, they arrived at the Azure Dragon family, spectating the situation from above. The banquet at the courtyard was completely gone, almost as though it never occurred. Instead of food and decorations, the courtyard was occupied by hundreds if not thousands of soldiers. Of course, Patriarch Liang was there, and he appeared to be giving them a speech at the moment. Yuan, this is your last chance to change your mind. She merely looked at him with a stiff expression on her face. Yuan didn't say anything and directly began descending towards the courtyard. She merely could only release a deep sigh before following him. Once they were close enough, Patriarch Liang noticed their presence and stopped his speech to stare at them with a profound frown on his face, his gaze fixated on Yuan for some reason. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1215 Someone You Can Only Dream of Becoming. Chapter 1205 Someone You Can Only Dream of Becoming. 1205 Someone You Can Only Dream of Becoming. As Yuan slowly descended towards the courtyard, more and more people noticed his presence. By the time Yuan's foot reached the ground, everyone in the courtyard was staring at him with puzzled looks on their faces. The soldiers thought he was with the Azure Dragon family at first due to how calmly he behaved, but when they saw the beauty behind him and recognized her identity, they became bewildered. Who are you? Patriarch Liang questioned Yuan with a deep frown on his face, ignoring the fact that Shi Meili had returned for some reason. When the soldiers realized that Yuan wasn't with them, they immediately prepared to apprehend him. However, since it was just two people against their hundreds, they weren't worried in the slightest. Name's Yuan. Yuan casually responded to Patriarch Liang before asking his own question. Are you the asshole who threatened to harm the Shi family? Patriarch Liang's eyebrows twitched upon being called an asshole. He can't even recall the last time that someone dared to disrespect him so brazenly. The soldiers and the spirit emperors beside him were speechless. But to their surprise, Patriarch Liang didn't immediately punish Yuan. Instead, he remained standing there with a somewhat hesitant look on his face for some reason. While the soldiers and the spirit emperors were too weak to sense it, Patriarch Liang and the other two spirit sovereigns there felt an inexplicable sense of dread coming from Yuan, almost as though their instincts were telling them, begging them to stay away from him, an unfathomable threat, at all cost. What are you trying to accomplish here? Patriarch Liang asked him after a moment of silence. I think that's obvious. I'm here to prevent you from harming the Shi family. Patriarch Liang narrowed his eyes, but before he could say anything, the spirit emperors beside him began laughing madly. Where did this fool crawl from? Does he even know what kind of position he's in right now? Haha. I can't believe it even though I am seeing it with my own eyes. But did you really come here thinking that you could stop all of us with just the two of you? Yuan glanced at these spirit emperors for a second, but didn't bother giving them any attention. He then continued speaking to Patriarch Liang. According to what I was told, you're going after the Shi family mostly for their blood cleansing ceremony? If I told you that most of the blood is gone, and that you won't be able to benefit from it, what will you do then? Patriarch Liang sneered. Do you really think I would give up on my ambitions because some brat is speaking nonsense? Even if that was the case, there is still plenty to benefit from conquering the Shi family. Yuan sighed. So there is nothing I can do to change your mind that doesn't result in the Azure Dragon family's destruction. Patriarch Liang's eyes widened with disbelief after hearing Yuan's words. The others also stopped laughing to stare at Yuan with deep frowns on their faces. Ahaha! Patriarch Liang suddenly burst out laughing. There must be something wrong with me today. To think I had been wary of you. His laughter halted suddenly, and he proceeded to glare at Yuan with intense killing intent. I don't care who you are or where you are from, but you won't get to leave this place alive. He turned to look at Shimei and continued. I don't know why you decided to return with this nut job, but you have squandered what little freedom you had left. Something that I was generous enough to grant you. Shimei swallowed nervously, but she didn't say anything. Suddenly, another voice resounded. My, what do we have here? Yuan turned to look at the person who just spoke to see a handsome young man approaching them from a distance. It was Liang Xian, who had been absent from the courtyard this entire time. Shimei, you must have had a change of heart to come back here so quickly. I knew you'd make the right choice. Don't worry, I will keep my promise and take care of you. Liang Xian spoke in a delighted tone, and on his face was a bright smile. Shimei sneered in disdain. Don't flatter yourself. Who's that? Yuan asked her. The person I came to this city to reject, she calmly said. I see. Yuan immediately understood the situation. Liang Xian stopped walking when he finally noticed Yuan. Ha! Who the hell are you? Liang Xian stared at Yuan with an unpleasant expression on his face. Even though Liang Xian didn't know Yuan, he immediately found Yuan's presence to be obnoxious and disliked him, mostly because he instinctively felt inferior to Yuan with just a glance. I am. Yuan tried to speak but was quickly interrupted by Shimei. He's my partner, my beloved, and my future husband. What? Liang Xian's eyes widened with shock after hearing her words. You heard me. He's the one whom I've dedicated my heart and body to. Someone you can only dream of becoming, Shimei said in a provocative manner. After hearing such words, Liang Xian felt and heard something snap inside his head, and his eyes and face turned red. He then muttered in a low voice as his body trembled from intense anger. So he's the reason why you refused my proposal? Does that mean if I get rid of him, you might change your mind? However, before Shimei could even respond, Liang Xian suddenly lunged forward, flying towards Yuan with his fangs showing. W8. Stay away from him. Patriarch Liang shouted when he saw this, but Liang Xian was too angry to hear him. Liang Xian arrived in front of Yuan in a split second. Die! Liang Xian roared as he swung his claw-like hands that had been reinforced with spiritual energy at Yuan. Meanwhile, Yuan doesn't even bother to look at Liang Xian as he flicks his arm at Liang Xian's face. Pap! Liang Xian was immediately sent flying to the other side of the courtyard like an arrow released from a bow, only stopping once he smacked into the stone wall, smashing a large hole into it. The result of their clash greatly startled everyone there, especially the soldiers and the spirit emperors, as they had expected a totally different outcome. C1206 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. Chapter 1206 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. 1206 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. Xianer. Patriarch Liang felt his heart skip a beat after seeing his precious son fly and smash into a brick wall. He then rushed over to his son, ignoring the assailant. Xianer, are you okay? Patriarch Liang helped his son get off the floor. What just happened to me? Why does my mouth hurt so much? Liang Xian spoke while blood was still dripping from his mouth, seemingly in a daze. Blood? Why am I bleeding? Yuan had struck him so hard that he forgot what had transpired in the last few seconds. Patriarch Liang glared at Yuan and roared. How dare you injure my son? I am going to kill you. Yuan shrugged and said in a somewhat sarcastic manner. You probably won't believe me when I say this, but I was holding back really hard just now. Your son is a little more fragile than I expected. Sorry. You son of a bitch. Patriarch Liang looked like he was on the verge of pouncing at Yuan, but he was stopped by one of the spirit emperors there. Patriarch, there's no need for you to dirty your hands over a mere spirit king. Allow me to handle this bastard for you. What? Patriarch Liang had a dumbfounded look on his face for some reason. A mere spirit king? He turned to look at Yuan, and sure enough, Yuan was only a peak spirit king. Impossible. How did I not notice his cultivation until now? His immense presence must have overshadowed his cultivation so much that even I overlooked it. Indeed, Patriarch Liang was so distracted by Yuan's presence that he didn't notice Yuan's cultivation until now. If it was never mentioned, he would probably never notice it. Patriarch Liang felt humiliated because of this, but he wasn't the only one. The other two spirit sovereigns also hadn't noticed Yuan's cultivation until it was mentioned. Although it wasn't intentional, they felt Yuan had slapped them in the face. Wait. Another voice suddenly resounded, and it was Liang Xian, who had snapped out of his daze and finally realized his situation. I will take care of him. Don't you dare lay a single finger on him until I am finished with him, he said as he walked towards Yuan. Wait. You are injured. You cannot handle him in your state. Patriarch Liang exclaimed. He did not want to hurt his son's pride by telling him that Yuan was out of his league, which would hurt him more than any physical injury could. He only caught me off guard just now. I can deal with a weakling like him, even if I am slightly injured. Liang Xian remained stubborn. Patriarch Liang gritted his teeth and glanced at the spirit emperors on standby, before speaking to them using divine sense. If things get dangerous for my son, kill that man. The spirit emperors silently nodded to his orders. You ready for a second round? Yuan asked Liang Xian as he got closer. I will make sure to hold back a little more this time. Shut the fuck up. Don't act so arrogantly after getting a single lucky hit on me. Liang Xian spat on the floor right in front of Yuan. Yuan merely shrugged before turning to look at Shimeli and asked, Is it okay if I killed him? Why are you asking me? Shimeli sighed. Then she said, Actually, I want to kill him myself, so try to keep him alive if you can. Yuan smiled. All right. He returned to Liang Xian, who was fuming from anger, and continued. You're in luck. You get to live for a little longer because of her. I will fucking kill you. Liang Xian roared as he sprung forward like a tiger. A vicious glint flickered from Yuan's eyes. A chilling sensation suddenly assaulted Liang Xian's spine, almost as though his instincts were trying to warn him. Pap. The very next second, Liang Xian's figure could be seen flying towards the brick wall for a second time. However, unlike the first time, Liang Xian did not lose his memories and quickly stood back up with a humiliated look on his face. I guess that was a lucky hit as well, huh? Yuan said, provoking Liang Xian's emotions further. I am going to skin you alive. Liang Xian roared as he began his transformation. Yuan then watched as Liang Xian's body and hair grew several inches. Shiny blue scales also started appearing over his skin, and his cultivation rose by a level. Although Yuan has seen several transformations by now, this is his first time seeing their body grow in size. His cultivation even rose by a level. Yuan thought to himself as he watched Liang Xian slowly and confidently approach him for a third time. Now that I have transformed, you won't be able to touch a single strand of my hair. Liang Xian spoke in an oddly confident manner. Be careful, Yuan. Different bloodlines have different advantages. The Azure Dragon family's advantage is their speed. Shimeli warned him. Speed, huh? That's right. Us Azure Dragons are top 3 of all dragon bloodlines when it comes to our natural speed, Liang Xian pridefully announced. However, Liang Xian's eyes widened when Yuan suddenly disappeared from his view, even though he didn't look away or blink his eyes. Is that so? A calm voice suddenly resounded behind Liang Xian, sending chills down his spine. He's behind you, Xianer, Patriarch Xian exclaimed. Liang Xian immediately swung around, but before he could even catch a glimpse of Yuan's figure, intense pain permeated through his face, and before he realized, he was flying towards the brick wall again. What kind of movement technique was that? Even I could barely keep up with him, Patriarch Liang exclaimed inwardly after witnessing Yuan's profound movement technique. Meanwhile, Yuan was also surprised by how fast he could move. Feng's movement technique is truly mythical. Is it because of my transformation? I feel as though I could understand it with much more ease, which is weird, considering that it's a movement technique meant for phoenixes. Enough of this. Get rid of him already. Patriarch Liang suddenly shouted as he glared at the spirit emperors around him. Yes. They immediately responded before quickly surrounding Yuan. Now this is a little more interesting. Yuan calmly smiled at them. Chapter 1207. Published at 19th of September, 2023, 11:40 and 14 seconds AM. Chapter 1207. Chapter 1207 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. 2. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1207 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. 2. 1207 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family. 2. So are you guys going to come at me together? Yuan calmly asked the 19 spirit emperors that encircled him. If it were any other spirit king in his shoes right now, they'd be pissing their pants and on the floor begging for their life. Forget 19. They wouldn't dare to go against a single spirit emperor. However, Yuan faced these 19 experts with complete tranquility, which made these experts question whether they were really looking at a young spirit king or not. Would be laughingstocks for the rest of our lives if word gets out that we needed 19 spirit emperors to handle a single spirit king. One of the spirit emperors spoke in a cold voice. Let me take care of this arrogant bastard who doesn't know his place. One of them suddenly stepped forward with a smirk on his face. Yuan looked at him and said, Are you sure? I'd rather live my life as a laughingstock, since I will still have my life at the very least. The spirit emperors frowned upon hearing his words, and they wondered where he was getting his confidence from. Does he have some kind of powerful artifact? He's all yours, Chen Mao. Make sure you tear him to shreds. I won't disappoint you. Chen Mao, who was the first to volunteer, smiled. Yuan turned to look at Shi Meili and asked her in a loud and conspicuous voice, Can I kill them? Of course. Shi Meili nodded. Patriarch Liang suddenly sucked his teeth and pointed at the soldiers. How long are you useless things going to stand there? Hurry up and capture that woman. I want her alive. The thousands of soldiers finally snapped out of their daze and shouted, As you command. They quickly surrounded Shi Meili, who immediately went into a defensive position. Seeing this, Yuan asked her, Are you going to be okay by yourself for a while? Or do you want me to take care of them first? You are in no position to worry about others right now, Chen Mao shouted as he jumped at Yuan with claw-like hands. However, without even looking at his opponent, Yuan casually flicked his sleeve. A weird noise resounded immediately after, and Chen Mao's headless body fell to the ground. Those who witnessed what had just happened subconsciously took several steps back. Their eyes widened with shock and terror. Yuan had slapped Chen Mao so hard that his entire head popped like a balloon, and one unlucky spirit emperor's was smeared with blood and brains. Shi Meili swallowed nervously before responding to Yuan's question. It might be annoying to deal with this many people at once, but I will be fine. Yuan silently nodded and didn't say anything else to her. Once he was paying attention to the spirit emperors again, he said, So, are you guys going to come at me at once, or do I need to slowly kill you lot one by one? The spirit emperors were enraged by his words, but they were also terrified by him after seeing Chen Mao's death. Although none of them wanted to admit it, they did not dare to face Yuan by themselves. Since he's begging for it, let's quickly get rid of him together. Someone finally said. Unsurprisingly, nobody refused his proposal. The Yutin spirit emperors then scattered further away from Yuan, by taking flight into the sky, while still making sure that they surrounded him. Yuan did not do anything and silently watched their next actions. Once they were prepared, the Spirit Emperors began barraging Yuan with powerful martial techniques. Due to their fear of Yuan, these Spirit Emperors subconsciously used their full strength from the start. Each of these martial techniques were strong enough to obliterate a peak Spirit King 100 times and erase multiple mountains, and there were 18 of them going off at once, which was powerful enough to violently shake the entire city. The dust and smoke caused by these techniques reached the heavens, which shocked and alarmed every individual within the city. As a result of their attack, Shimeli and the soldiers were sent flying away, before they could even do anything. The attack was so powerful and sudden that it caught even Patriarch Liang and the other 2 spirit sovereigns off guard. You fucking idiots! Are you trying to kill a single Spirit King or destroy my city? Patriarch Liang immediately screamed at the Spirit Emperors out of anger. It was at this moment the Spirit Emperors realized that they had screwed up. Their faces flushed with redness when they also realized that they had feared a Spirit King to the point of losing control over their power. However, they quickly justified it with Yuan's abnormal strength that killed a Spirit Emperor with a single slap. Fuck. No matter what happens, we will be laughingstocks once news of this spreads. The Spirit Emperors cried inwardly. However, at least the fear and anxiousness in their heart was no longer there with Yuan's death. But then they heard a familiar voice, one that should no longer exist in this world. And this caused their faces to pale, their hearts to beat violently, their expressions to freeze, and their bodies to pour out sweat. I have to agree with your Patriarch. That was dangerous. Not for me, but for my friend and the citizens of this city. If I hadn't weakened the spiritual energy at the very last second, you lots would have injured my friend and blown up this entire city. The Spirit Emperors slowly turned their heads to look at the cloud of dust that was quickly clearing up, their faces looking as though they were looking at a ghost. Once most of the dust had settled, they could see a massive hole at the center of the courtyard, and hovering right above this hole was Yuan, who looked completely unharmed, almost as though he appeared in his spot after the attacks. Impossible! All of the Spirit Emperors exclaimed simultaneously after confirming Yuan's presence with their own eyes. Yet they still looked to be in disbelief. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1208. Published at 19th of September 2023, 11:40 and 12 seconds AM. Chapter 1208. Chapter 1208 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 3. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1208 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 3. 1208 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 3. Impossible. There's no way he's still alive. The Spirit Emperors became pale-faced when they realized that Yuan was still alive. After all, not even a Spirit Emperor such as Patriarch Liang would be able to get away unscathed from such a powerful combined attack. He must have used a powerful spiritual treasure. That must be it. And I doubt such a powerful spiritual treasure can be used again. After convincing themselves that Yuan had only survived because of a spiritual treasure, they prepared to attack him again. However, Yuan did not plan on standing still this time, as he had a feeling that these Spirit Emperors would do something reckless again. As the Spirit Emperors spread out, Yuan used his movement technique to instantly close his distance from them. When Yuan suddenly appeared in front of one of them like a ghost, the targeted Spirit Emperor felt his heart jump so hard that it nearly leaped out of his chest. A vicious glint flickered within Yuan's eyes, and before the Spirit Emperor could finish a single word, Yuan slapped him so hard his head twisted off his body before flying out of the courtyard. As the Spirit Emperor's headless body fell to the ground, Yuan moved to the next target. You bastard! The man swung his sword at Yuan. However, to his surprise, Yuan did not bother to block his attack. Thus, his attack landed on Yuan's body without any issues. However, despite using all of his strength, the man immediately realized that his sword could not penetrate Yuan's skin, let alone cut him. Did you forget to sharpen your sword? Yuan cracked a joke with the man before chopping off his head with a swift arm swing. The other Spirit Emperors were terrified by what they were witnessing. How can a single spirit king kill 3 spirit emperors with seemingly zero effort? That did not make sense unless Yuan was hiding his cultivation base, but the spirit sovereigns would have noticed if that were the case. Furthermore, nobody there recognized Yuan, and they had never seen him until today. Do not panic. No matter what kind of trick he has up his sleeves, he won't be able to use them forever. Let's cover each other and deal with him together. The strongest spirit emperor there shouted at the others. Hearing such words, the spirit emperors quickly snapped out of their daze and came together, forming a defensive formation. If people learned that 16 spirit emperors had formed a defensive formation against a single spirit king, the entire world would laugh at them, but these spirit emperors could care less about their pride at this moment, when their lives were hanging by the edge. Meanwhile, Patriarch Liang and the other 2 spirit sovereigns had deep frowns on their faces as they wondered what kind of monster they were facing. They were certain that Yuan wasn't hiding his cultivation base, yet the things he was doing said otherwise. Fuck. Where the hell did this bastard come from? We have spied on the Shi family and gathered every little information that we could possibly on them for hundreds of thousands of years. There's no way that he's managed to remain hidden for that long. Patriarch Liang gritted his teeth in frustration. The Azure dragon family has been gathering information for many generations, yet they have never heard of someone like Yuan. Unless he remained in hiding without showing even the slightest of presence for that long, there was simply no possible way that someone as profound as him could evade their eyes. For a brief moment, Patriarch Liang wondered if their world was no longer secluded, and that Yuan came from the outside world, but that seemed even less likely. No. Wait. There were rumors of a human appearing in the ancient dragon city about a year ago. No. That's not possible. Although Shi Shengma tried his best to keep Yuan's existence a secret, it was simply impossible to do so perfectly, especially after the spectacle that happened during the Dragon Awakening ritual. Not to mention Yuan showing up at the Dragon Ancestral Temple and beating up multiple renowned warriors. It was inevitable that Yuan's existence would not remain a secret. However, because the rumors were so ridiculous, Patriarch Liang immediately treated such information as nonsense and no longer bothered with it. Once the spirit emperors were in formation, Yuan turned to look at the Patriarch sovereign and spoke in a calm voice. Hey, are you really okay with all of your soldiers dying to me? If you don't want them to die a pointless death, you should face me yourself, alongside the other 2 spirit sovereigns. Hearing such words, Patriarch Liang sneered in disdain. Don't be so full of yourself just because you managed to kill a few of my soldiers using some hidden spiritual treasure. If you can still talk so arrogantly after using up all of your tricks, I will be your opponent. Until then, you can have fun with my soldiers. In the end, Patriarch Liang still believed that Yuan was using some kind of trick to defeat the 3 spirit emperors. Yuan sighed as he turned to look at the spirit emperors. You heard him. It's unfortunate, but you have been abandoned. The spirit emperors gritted their teeth in anger, but not because Patriarch Liang abandoned them. Let's show this fucker that he can only go so far using tricks. Grand Dragon Formation, advance. The 16 spirit emperors began advancing towards Yuan while remaining grouped together, leaving 0 openings in their formation. Seeing this, Yuan retrieved his Empyrean overlord and took a deep breath. When the spirit emperors saw Yuan holding the sword, they could immediately feel an overwhelming sense of dread, almost as if they could already sense that their death was near. Don't stop. He won't be able to harm us as long as we stay in formation. The leader of the group shouted. Their aura intensified, causing the air around them to tremble. However, Yuan ignored all that and casually swung his sword at them. A chilling sword light flashed before the group's eyes, and before they realized, their entire formation had been destroyed in the blink of an eye with everyone inside the formation severed in half. I'm POS, SI. A dying mumble filled with disbelief resounded before dead silence filled the area. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1209. Published at 19th of September, 2023, 11:40 and 11 seconds AM. Chapter 1209. Chapter 1209 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 4. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1209 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 4. 1209 Clashing with the Azure Dragon Family 4. After the blast that had sent everyone flying, Shimeli quickly stabilized herself before turning to look at the massive smoke, her eyes filled with worry. Yuan. She silently prayed to the dragon god for his safety, but then she realized that she could use her divine sense, and sure enough, she could sense Yuan's presence. This meant that he was still alive, at the very least. As for the spirit emperors and the spirit sovereigns, they were so certain that Yuan had turned into atoms from the attack that they didn't even think for a second that he could still be alive. Once Shimeli confirmed that Yuan was still alive, she turned her attention to the soldiers that were still struggling to stand up from the explosion. The majority of these soldiers were between Spirit Grandmaster and Spirit King, so they were not able to withstand the force, unlike Shimeli, who was a Spirit Emperor. When Shimeli saw the opportunity, she did not let it go to waste and immediately rushed toward the large group of soldiers with a focused look on her face. Get on your feet. We're being attacked. Horrified screams immediately resounded as Shimeli wreaked havoc within the enemy lines. Her punches strong enough to obliterate her target, causing their bodies to explode violently. Surround her. Attack her from all sides. One of the Spirit Kings commanded the others from the back, his face full of sweat. But alas, no matter how many Spirit Grandmasters or Spirit Kings they threw at Shimeli, they would all perish before her bloodied fists. This is what normally happens when a Spirit King fights with a Spirit Emperor. They simply cannot overcome the difference in their strength. Therefore, it was no wonder the Spirit Emperors all looked down on Yuan, as it was simple logic that a Spirit King cannot defy a Spirit Emperor with the assistance of some godly spiritual treasure. Within moments, before Yuan even emerged from the smoke, dozens of Azure Dragon Family's soldiers perished. By the time Yuan revealed his presence again, Shimeli had killed 100 soldiers. Patriarch Liang and the other two spirit sovereigns were too focused on Yuan's battle with the Spirit Emperor, so much so that they forgot about Shimeli and were unaware of her slaughtering. A few minutes later, Yuan killed all 16 Spirit Emperors with a single swing of his sword. When the soldiers saw this, they almost lost all of their courage and desire to fight, even though they still had 3 spirit sovereigns on their side. Shimeli was too focused on slaughtering the soldiers, so she didn't notice it at first, but when she saw the terrified and shocked expressions on the soldiers' faces in the back, she subconsciously turned to look behind her, where those soldiers were looking at. She was puzzled at first when she couldn't see any of the Spirit Emperors while Yuan was hovering in the air by himself, but when she noticed the mutilated bodies on the ground beneath Yuan, her eyes nearly popped out of their sockets from shock. Although Shimeli wasn't worried that Yuan wouldn't be able to defeat the Spirit Emperors since he's managed to defeat even her mother, she truly did not expect him to deal with the Spirit Emperors so quickly and effortlessly. Why, you bastard! How dare you kill all of my generals? I will make you pay. Patriarch Liang suddenly roared with anger, his flushed face nearly releasing smoke. Even if he's managed to take over the Shi family, losing 19 Spirit Emperors was a huge blow for his Azure Dragon family, as it took them countless resources and time to cultivate those Spirit Emperors. Yuan turned to look at Patriarch Liang with a nonchalant expression, and he spoke. Do you even have the right to be angry? You also can't say that I didn't warn you. If you'd come to face me yourself, they wouldn't have lost their life so pointlessly. After a slight pause he continued. Actually they would have still died, since this is war after all. Though, at least you wouldn't have had to watch them die. Patriarch Liang suddenly released a loud roar, causing the entire place to tremble. You'll regret running your mouth. Patriarch Liang then flew at Yuan with a thick spear in his grasp. The other 2 spirit sovereigns looked at each other as they wondered what they should do. It was at this moment that they noticed the mayhem happening not far away, where Shimeli was still slaughtering the soldiers. One of them frowned and said to the other, Go take care of that woman before she kills all of our soldiers. I'll watch over the Patriarch to make sure nothing happens to him. Make sure you don't kill her. The young master will be really angry since he desperately yearns for her. Sure. The spirit sovereign then went over to Shimei to confront her. Yuan noticed this, but he didn't immediately act. "How dare you look away while facing me?" Patriarch Liang shouted as he lunged his spear at Yuan. Clang. Yuan effortlessly blocked the attack with his sword and said, "The three of you should have attacked me together instead of splitting up. You'd have a higher chance of landing a hit on me too." A mere spirit king. Patriarch Liang's aura exploded, and his assault became even more aggressive and powerful. However, no matter how much Patriarch Liang lunged his spear at Yuan, he couldn't land a single hit on Yuan, and he didn't know why. Why am I struggling so much to hit this bastard, who's moving slower than me, and is only defending? Patriarch Liang truly couldn't comprehend it. Is this all you've got? If so, I'll end it right away, as I am falling asleep from boredom right now. Yuan suddenly said in a nonchalant voice. Shut your damn mouth already. Patriarch Liang released another roar, and his body started to transform the very next moment. His body grew bigger, his hair grew longer, and his aura skyrocketed. As for his cultivation, it rose from 3rd level Spirit Sovereign to 5th level Spirit Sovereign. Die, you bastard. Patriarch Liang swung his spear, which was engulfed in some sort of azure-colored aura, at Yuan. Clang. For the first time, Yuan was pushed back by Patriarch Liang's spear. How dare you look away while facing me? Patriarch Liang shouted as he, however, for some reason, Yuan still had the same bored expression on his face. This infuriated Patriarch Liang, who was on the verge of losing his mind now. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1210 Dragon's Soul Awakening. Chapter 1210 Dragon's Soul Awakening. 1210 Dragon's Soul Awakening. That bastard is really fighting on equal footing with the Patriarch, who is already transformed. No, he might even be ahead. Is he actually an unknown expert with a hidden cultivation? Where did someone like him come from? The Spirit Sovereign, watching from a distance, wondered inwardly, feeling an inexplicable sense of dread. At this rate, he will have to join Patriarch Liang and fight this monster of unknown origin together. Meanwhile, the other Spirit Sovereign that went to stop Shimei's slaughtering appeared in front of her like a ghost right as she was a split second away from taking another soldier's life, blocking her strike. Shimei was so absorbed in her slaughtering that she didn't notice the Spirit Sovereign's presence until he appeared in front of her. Once she realized this, she quickly distanced herself from him and became defensive. Why don't you be a good little dragon and stay down? I don't want to hurt you, even though you've already killed hundreds of my men. After all, the young master wouldn't want to see any bruises on your body later. The Spirit Sovereign said to her with a cold expression on his face. Shimei smiled and said, Then you don't have to worry, since he won't ever get such a chance. The Spirit Sovereign sighed before speaking again. Do you really want to fight me? Unlike that monster over there, you don't have what it takes. I am more than enough for someone like you. Luckily for me, you are the weakest of the three. The Spirit Sovereign's eyebrows twitched after hearing Shimei's words. Indeed, he was the weakest of the three Spirit Sovereigns in terms of prowess, and that has always been his biggest insecurity, so he immediately flew into a rage after being reminded of it. The Spirit Sovereign then spoke while gritting his teeth. Now that I think about it, we have plenty of effective medicine, so it won't matter even if I break all of the bones in your body. The Spirit Sovereign's aura exploded after saying that, and he flew towards Shimei with his hands tightly grasped into fists. Shimei didn't hesitate to release all of her cultivation before clashing with him. Although Shimei was not as monstrous as Yuan, she was capable of holding her own against a Spirit Sovereign as a Spirit Emperor. In terms of talent, she has the highest potential in her family, even though she rarely cultivates due to their peaceful environment. If Shimingza hadn't encouraged and basically forced Shimei to train with her, she wouldn't be anywhere as strong as she is today. Whoosh! The soldiers around them were blown away by the impact of their exchanges once they began fighting. I guess her royal bloodline isn't just for show. The Spirit Sovereign was surprised to see Shimei holding her own against him. Meanwhile, Yuan was in the middle of fighting Patriarch Liang, and he noticed what was going on with Shimeli, but since she didn't appear to be in any imminent danger, he didn't intervene. This fucking bastard. I cannot go all out on him because I will destroy my city along with him. Patriarch Liang's frustration grew as he continued to fight Yuan. Since they were still in the middle of his city, he couldn't use any destructive techniques to deal with Yuan. Thus, he started to think of ways to bring Yuan out of the city, where he could unleash his full strength. However, since he couldn't even manage to push Yuan back, he couldn't imagine how he'd force Yuan out of the city. Eventually, he found a solution to his dilemma. While he may not be able to force Yuan outside the city, he could easily force Shimeli outside, and he gambled that Yuan would follow her outside on his own accord. Thus, Patriarch Liang immediately spoke to the spirit sovereign that was fighting with her through divine sense. Bring Shimeli outside the city as soon as possible. Although the spirit sovereign didn't know Patriarch Liang's intentions at first, he didn't question it and used a technique that released a powerful blast of wind at Shimeli. What the? Shimeli was caught off guard by this random technique, and was sent flying out of the courtyard before stabilizing herself. However, the spirit sovereign would use the technique again before she could fully stabilize herself, sending her flying again. Are you messing with me? Shimeli shouted at him in an annoyed voice, as she also had no clue what was going on. But alas, she was sent flying again for a third time without receiving any answers. Shimeli was incredibly frustrated by now. Even though the wind wasn't injuring her, it was not something she could really fight back with her inferior cultivation. Naturally, Yuan noticed this, and he said to Patriarch Liang after understanding the situation, "If you wanted to fight me in a different location, you could have just asked since I wouldn't have refused. After all, I wouldn't want anyone innocent getting hurt." And without saying anything else, Yuan flew in the direction that Shimeli was sent flying towards. By the time he caught up with her, Shimeli was already many miles away from the city. "I swear, I will kill you." Shimeli roared in anger as she tried to fix her messy hair. "Are you okay?" Yuan appeared beside her shortly after. "Yes, they wanted to bring us outside the city, where they can fight us with all of their strength and not destroy their city," Yuan explained to her. Everything made sense to Shimeli after hearing this, but she was still upset that she was sent flying in such a manner. Eventually, Patriarch Liang and his army appeared before Yuan, and Shimeli again. "Now that you can use your full strength, you no longer have any excuses left as to why you cannot defeat me," Yuan said to Patriarch Liang with a provoking smile on his face. "You won't be arrogant for much longer, you little bastard." Patriarch Liang sneered. He turned to look at the spirit sovereign that had been fighting Shimeli and said to him, "General Zheng, you will handle Shimeli. I will handle that annoying bastard. General Wan, you will march the army towards the ancient dragon city, where the Emerald Dragon family will be waiting for us." General Wan had a surprised look on his face, and he proceeded to express his concerns. "My lord, shouldn't I stay here with you just in case anything happens to you?" However, Patriarch Liang immediately frowned at him and spoke in a low but cold voice. "Are you implying that I won't be able to defeat him and will need your help?" "And my apologies, Lord Liang. That wasn't my intention. I will lead the army and work with the Emerald Dragon family until your arrival. Then get out of here. We will regroup with you once we are done here. It won't take long." General Wan then left the scene, taking with him thousands of soldiers. "Shouldn't we at least try to stop them?" Shimeli turned to ask Yuan as General Wan left with the soldiers. "Don't worry, I don't intend on letting them reach the city. We'll be done here before they can go anywhere," Yuan said as he readied his Empyrean overlord. Shimeli nodded, and she retrieved a golden spear from her spatial ring. "Mother lent this to me as a good luck charm. I didn't think I would be using it." Shimeli mumbled as she caressed her family's heirloom, the dragon's soul. Yuan glanced at the dragon's soul, and for some reason he could feel a weird sensation coming from it, almost as though it was trying to communicate with him. Unfortunately, he did not have the time to ponder, as Patriarch Liang and General Zheng began their attack the next moment. Boom. When Patriarch Liang and Yuan clashed with each other, a powerful ripple swept the area. Patriarch Liang's prowess had increased exponentially now that he no longer has to worry about destroying his city. You should have never stuck your nose in our business, you nobody. Now, you will die for it. Patriarch Liang said to Yuan after pushing him back multiple times during their clashes. And you should have never threatened the Shi family, Yuan calmly said, and his aura suddenly spiked. What? Patriarch Liang was startled, even shocked by Yuan's sudden domineering aura that was multiple times stronger than just seconds ago. Meanwhile, the dragon's soul in Shi Mei's grasp began trembling when it sensed Yuan's aura. What is going on? Shi Mei looked at her spear with a bewildered expression, as she has never seen the dragon's soul acting in such a manner before. C1211 Patriarch Liang's Trump Card. Chapter 1211 Patriarch Liang's Trump Card. 1211 Patriarch Liang's Trump Card. What's happening to the dragon's soul? I have never seen it acting like this before. Shi Mei silently stared at the spear in her grasp with a bewildered expression on her face. As far as she was aware, the dragon's soul has never bonded with anyone within her family. She has always wondered why the dragon's soul was in her family's possession, even though nobody could use it. The dragon's soul has remained asleep for countless years. It isn't a coincidence that it's showing signs of awakening now. A certain face appeared inside her mind, but before she could really think about it, she was disturbed by General Zheng. Did you already forget about me? General Zheng roared as he swung his halberd at Shi Mei, who quickly reacted by lifting the dragon's soul to block the incoming attack. Clang! Shi Mei was sent flying back by the immense force coming from the strike, and she could even feel a numbing sensation in her hands afterward. Unfortunately, I do not have the time to play with you anymore. General Zheng said, his aura slowly increasing as he began his transformation. Since you seem to be in a hurry, I will do you a favor and kill you soon. Shi Mei said, and the atmosphere around her suddenly changed. Her hair grew slightly longer, her golden eyes began glowing, and golden scales began appearing on her body. General Zheng snickered at her transformation. Is that all your transformation can achieve? Besides looking a little different, you don't seem any stronger. Shi Mei didn't say anything and readied her spear. When they clashed again a moment later, General Zheng's eyes widened when he felt the overwhelming strength behind Shi Mei's strike, and was pushed back several steps. Although she doesn't look any stronger and her cultivation remains the same, she's actually several times stronger than before her transformation. After coming to this realization, General Zheng stopped underestimating Shi Mei and began taking her seriously. Meanwhile, several miles away, Patriarch Liang was experiencing a situation that he never even dreamed of being possible. What's wrong? You haven't opened your mouth in a while now. Yuan's voice resounded as Patriarch Liang held a panicked expression on his face. Patriarch Liang gritted his teeth, but no words came out. You were acting so high and mighty not long ago too. Yuan's figure suddenly disappeared before Patriarch Liang's eyes. Half a second later, Patriarch Liang could sense a presence behind him, awakening his goosebumps. He's behind me. Patriarch Liang immediately twisted his body to turn around while swinging his weapon in motion. Clang! A powerful ripple was created as Patriarch Liang's weapon flew into Yuan's Empyrean overlord at full force. However, Yuan did not budge a single inch despite Patriarch Liang using his full strength. Umph! Yuan released a low snort before swinging his arm. The very next moment, Patriarch Liang's body was sent flying into the distance like a ragdoll being tossed across the street. After stabilizing himself with much effort, Patriarch Liang did not look surprised by what had just happened, as he had been tossed several times by now. Instead of surprise, Patriarch Liang had a terrified expression on his face, looking like someone who could not find a way out of their trouble. Impossible. Why is he so strong? If he's using a spiritual treasure, there's no way something so powerful could last this long. He must be an expert in disguise. But how come we have never heard of him before? Just where the fuck have you been hiding all this time? And why are you showing yourself now? Patriarch Liang subconsciously shouted out what was inside his mind. Does any of that really matter? Yuan calmly responded. Fuck. Patriarch Liang suddenly tilted his head and released a deafening roar that caused the air to tremble. When he looked at Yuan again, his eyes were bloodshot and desperate. This is my trump card, and I was saving this treasure for the Shi family, but you are clearly a bigger threat than them as a whole. Patriarch Liang muttered as he reached inside his spatial ring to bring out what appeared to be a single piece of golden scale. Yuan raised an eyebrow after seeing the scale. He has no idea what he was looking at, and why Patriarch Liang brought it out. Do you know what this is? Patriarch Liang held the scale in front of him as he asked Yuan. Should I? Yuan asked. Patriarch Liang showed a wide smirk on his face as he spoke. You probably know that there are 2 dragons that are accepted as dragon gods by the dragon race. The Great One and the Dragon Ancestor. However, what if I told you that there actually existed a 3rd dragon? A dragon god that surpassed the other 2? Oh. Yuan's interest was immediately piqued by such words. This 3rd dragon god also had a supreme bloodline, but it was somehow incomparably stronger than the other 2 with a similar bloodline. If this dragon god hadn't disappeared into thin air, it would be ruling the entire dragon race by now, I'm sure of it. Patriarch Liang had a look of deep admiration as he spoke of this 3rd dragon god, almost as though he was speaking of his own ancestor. And this scale right here belongs to that 3rd dragon god. Even though it is only a tiny portion of a single piece of scale, it contains enough power to obliterate any dragon that is below the realm of divinity. You may be strong, perhaps even at the cultivation level of spirit enlightenment, but you definitely haven't reached the divine realm yet. However, I will give you one last chance. Come work for me and I will spare your life. After a moment of silence, Yuan spoke in a sarcastic tone. I appreciate such a generous offer, but I very much would like to see what that scale can do, so I will have to refuse your offer. Patriarch Liang sneered in disdain. Then you can die for me. He then clenched the golden scale and poured his spiritual energy into it, causing it to emit a bright and mythical light that filled the area with a rainbow-colored aurora. C1212 The Third Dragon God. Chapter 1212 The Third Dragon God. 1212 The Third Dragon God. After pouring almost all of his spiritual energy into the fragment of dragon scale, Patriarch Liang roared with excitement. Come forth and show this lowly dog your unfathomable prowess, dragon god. The fragment of dragon scale shattered in Patriarch Liang's grasp, releasing a powerful ripple that swept through the entire realm and alerted every expert in the world. The ripple also carried with it an ancient roar that vibrated the heart and soul of every individual that heard it, causing their blood to boil in excitement, almost as though they were reacting to it. Did you feel that? Shi Shengma had a shocked expression on his face as he turned to look at Shi Mingzi, who also looked extremely baffled. I felt it. What the hell was that? Shi Mingzi swallowed nervously. It came from the direction of. They both turned to look in the direction of Azure Dragon City. I hope they aren't involved. Shi Shengmo rubbed his eyes in a stressful manner as he sighed. Yet I have a feeling that something unprecedented is happening over there. If you are that worried, why don't you go there and check up on them? Shi Mingzi said. You want me to show up unannounced in another city? I don't want any trouble with the Azure Dragon family, since we have been at peace for countless years now. I don't understand why you like them. If you ask me, I think there's something weird about them. Shi Mingzi shook her head. I never said I like them, but they haven't given me a reason to dislike them. That's more than enough for me. Anyways, regardless if the 2 of them are involved or not, I am going to investigate the source of the ripple. I have a bad feeling about this. Shi Mingzi then said, I will go with you. Whatever caused that ripple isn't something you can handle by yourself. Frankly speaking, it terrified me for a second, and I have never experienced such fear before. Shi Mingzi noticed that Shi Shengmo's body was trembling slightly, but she couldn't blame him. Meanwhile, the majority of the people living in that realm were shaking in fear. Back at the location where the ripple originated from, Shi Meili and General Zheng had temporarily stopped their fight to watch the spectacle before them. What is that? Shi Meili muttered in a dazed voice as a majestic and massive dragon made of light hovered in the air, surrounding Yuan and Patriarch Liang. This dragon had a transparent body and scales, and it looked like an illusion that was only half completed. However, despite that, it had a very real aura that was unlike anything Shi Meili have felt before. It was domineering and unfathomably deep. so deep that she merely feared it might consume her if she tried to peek into its power. As for Yuan, he seemed surprised by how much power was contained within such a small fragment of a scale, but it wasn't enough to scare him, as he has encountered people that could rival, even surpass its aura. If such power is contained within a fragment of a scale, just how powerful is the dragon as a whole? Now that would be terrifying. Yuan thought to himself as he gazed upon the dragon with a calm face. Ah, are you so scared that you don't even know how to react? This is what you get for messing with me, with my Azure family. Patriarch Liang laughed like a maniac, his arms spread out with joy as he basked in the dragon's aura. Unfortunately, it's too late to beg for your life now. Patriarch Liang pointed at Yuan and roared, "Swallow this ant, almighty dragon god!" The dragon god released a deafening roar that shook the world before flying towards Yuan with its mouth wide open. Yuan raised his Empyrean overlord and prepared to meet the dragon god head-on. However, Yuan suddenly lowered his sword with a weird look on his face. "Yuan, what are you doing? How can you give up without a fight?" She merely cried out loud after seeing his actions, as she thought that he had given up before the dragon god's prowess. Ha ha ha, it's only natural. Not even heaven would have the courage to face the dragon god, much less a little dragon. Patriarch Liang laughed out loud. "Yuan." She merely suddenly raised an eyebrow when she noticed Yuan's eyes that were devoid of fear. In fact, he did not look like someone who had given up. "I don't know what this feeling in my body is, but I do know that it's telling me to not fight the dragon god." Yuan thought inwardly as he waited for the dragon god to reach him. Sure enough, once the dragon god reached Yuan, it stopped moving right in front of him. The unexpected turn of events baffled Patriarch Liang, who was completely speechless by what was happening. What's going on? Why did the dragon god stop? Patriarch Liang has no idea what was happening. In fact, he has never used the scale before until today, so he only assumed it was a spiritual treasure, a weapon of mass destruction due to the amount of spiritual energy contained within. Unbeknownst to him and everyone there, the scale was not a weapon, and Patriarch Liang only had one thing right about it, that it belonged to the third dragon god. "What are you doing? Kill that bastard!" Patriarch Liang roared at the dragon god when he ran out of patience. Eventually, the dragon god began moving again, ramming straight at Yuan. Yes, Patriarch Liang clenched his jaw and fists when he saw this, but what happened next caused his eyes to pop out of their sockets. Instead of destroying Yuan like Patriarch Liang had hoped and imagined, the dragon god entered Yuan's body and disappeared within. After consuming the dragon god, Yuan could feel something change inside his body. As for the specifications, he did not know what had changed. What? Dragon goddess? Yuan's eyes widened with surprise after learning this information through the system. He definitely did not expect the third dragon god to be female. C1213 Asking for Mercy. Chapter 1213 Asking for Mercy. 1213 Asking for Mercy. After consuming Dragon Goddess Ye's memories, images immediately began flashing inside Yuan's head. These images were clearly the Dragon Goddess memories, but Yuan did not have the time to indulge himself in her memories at this moment. What did you do just now?" Patriarch Liang roared in a terrified and confused tone, his expression looking as though he just witnessed a ghost. Yuan looked at him with a nonchalant gaze and asked, "Where did you acquire that scale? If you tell me, I will tell you what I did." Patriarch Liang gritted his teeth. As much as he didn't want to answer Yuan, he wanted to know what had happened, so he reluctantly answered, "It was passed down by my ancestors, and I was told that they had it before coming to this world. That's all I really know about it." This made Yuan wonder if the Azure Dragon family has any relations with the Dragon Goddess, or if they simply found the scale by chance. Regardless, he does not have any intentions to spare Patriarch Liang or the Azure Dragon family for threatening the Shi family. "I see," Yuan calmly mumbled before readying the Empyrean overlord. When Patriarch Liang saw this, his body immediately tensed. "Wait. You said that you'd tell me what you did to the dragon god if I told you how I acquired it." "I consumed it," Yuan casually responded before flying towards Patriarch Liang with killing intent in his eyes. Patriarch Liang could feel all of his scales rising. Although there were no changes to Yuan's aura after he consumed the dragon goddess memories, there was a slight difference in his atmosphere. He felt colder and more vicious to Patriarch Liang, who was in full panic mode now that his trump card did nothing to stop Yuan. "Wait. Let's talk about this," Patriarch Liang pleaded as Yuan reached him. However, Yuan ignored his pleas and tossed Patriarch Liang's body around like a sandbag. After several moments of humiliation, Yuan stopped messing around and sliced off one of Patriarch Liang's arms. Patriarch Liang released a loud and painful roar that traveled miles. "My lord!" General Zheng halted his fight with Shimei after hearing the scream. "You are in no position to look away." Shimei became more aggressive after seeing Yuan dominate Patriarch Liang, her motivation soaring toward the sky even though she was losing slightly just moments ago. "Get off me! I have no time to play with you anymore." General Zheng roared as he unleashed all of his spiritual energy at Shimei, as he no longer cared if he killed her or not. Shimei tried her best to resist the spiritual energy, but she could only block 90% before she was sent flying by the rest of the spiritual energy. Meanwhile, General Zheng flew toward Yuan and Patriarch Liang's direction. "Where do you think you are going?" Shimei quickly stabilized herself before chasing after General Zheng, who was slightly faster than her. Some distance away, Yuan tossed Patriarch Liang around a few more times before severing his second arm. Patriarch Liang knew that he had no chance of defeating Yuan at this point, and gave up entirely. After getting his second arm severed, Patriarch Liang kneeled on the ground with an oddly tranquil look on his face. "What are you doing? You know I won't forgive you even if you kowtow for forgiveness," Yuan asked as he stood before Patriarch Liang. "I am not asking for forgiveness. I am asking for mercy," Patriarch Liang calmly responded. "I will stop struggling and give you my life. However, before you kill me, I want you to know that the majority of my children are not aware of my ambitions, and they are completely innocent. If you still insist on slaughtering my family after this, just know that you are killing people whose only crime is being part of my family." Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly after hearing this, and he calmly responded, "I have no intentions of going after your family. I will leave their fate in the Shi family's hands, and am sure the Shi family will thoroughly investigate everything too." Patriarch Liang released a sigh of relief after hearing Yuan's response, and he calmly closed his eyes, silently awaiting his death. "Don't you dare lay your filthy hands on him." General Zheng's voice resounded as he finally reached their location. However, almost as though he couldn't hear General Zheng, Yuan swung his sword without hesitation, decapitating Patriarch Liang in a swift motion. "My lord!" General Zheng roared, and as he arrived before Yuan with bloodshot eyes, he unleashed every ounce of spiritual energy inside his body at Yuan. Yuan didn't say anything and merely glanced at General Zheng before casually throwing a single fist at him. Yuan's seemingly indestructible fist tore through General Zheng's spiritual energy, like it was nothing before smashing him straight in the face. Pop! General Zheng's head exploded like a balloon, and his headless body collapsed right beside Patriarch Liang's body. Shimei came to a slow halt as she stared at Yuan with wide eyes. She knew that Yuan was unfathomably powerful, but she didn't think that he was so powerful that he could kill two spirit sovereigns in the blink of an eye. After snapping out of her daze, she nervously approached him. "Are you okay, Yuan?" she asked him in a low voice. The cold expression on Yuan's face immediately softened, and he turned to look at her with a warm smile. "I'm fine. What about you? Are you hurt?" "Just some scratches. I'll be fine," Shimei said with a stiff smile. Although her body looked perfectly fine on the outside, she had some internal injuries such as broken bones, but it wasn't anything life-threatening, and such injuries will easily heal for a divine beast like her. Yuan knew this, and when Shimei saw his look, she quickly said, "Don't worry, I am really fine. Anyways, we are not finished yet, since the Azure Dragon family's army is still marching towards our city, not to mention the Emerald Dragon family." Yuan nodded. "Alright, let's deal with the rest of the Azure Dragon family first." However, right as they began moving, Yuan suddenly sensed two familiar presences flying in their direction at high speed. "What's the matter?" She merely asked him. But she didn't need an answer since she also sensed these presences a moment later. Sure enough, Shi Xingma and Shi Mingzi appeared before them shortly after. C1214 City Engulfed in Flames. Chapter 1214 City Engulfed in Flames. 1214 City Engulfed in Flames. Yuan. Meili. Is everything okay? Shi Mingzi was the first to speak after their arrival. We are fine, but what are you two doing here? She merely stared at them with a dazed look on her face. We heard a powerful dragon's roar unlike anything we've heard before. So we rushed here to investigate. Shi Xingma said. You heard that from here? Shi merely was surprised. It was at this moment Shi Xingma and Shi Mingzi noticed the corpses behind her. That face. Patriarch Liang and General Zheng? Why are they dead? What happened here? Shi Xingma exclaimed. He didn't think for a second that Yuan or Shi Meili were responsible for their deaths, even though they were on the scene with nobody else there. In fact, he believed that they were killed by the unknown entity that released the dragon's roar. Is this also caused by that dragon? Shi Mingzi swallowed nervously. If the entity dared to kill someone as prominent as Patriarch Liang, it probably won't hesitate to go after them either. Actually, about that. Shi Meili had a nervous smile on her face, her body fidgeting slightly. What? What happened? Shi Xingma stared at her intensively. Yuan stepped in and said, I'm responsible for this. What? Shi Xingma and Shi Mingzi turned to look at him with wide eyes filled with disbelief. I killed them, he repeated with more clarity. You killed Patriarch Liang. Why would you do such a thing? Shi Xingma exclaimed. Give us a chance to explain, Shi Meili said, and she proceeded to explain the entire situation to her parents. Unsurprisingly, they became increasingly upset as they heard the details. That traitorous snake, Patriarch Chui. How dare he lust after my wife after everything our family has done for their family? Shi Xingma appeared to be more angry at Patriarch Chui lusting after Shi Mingzi than Patriarch Liang wanting to consume their Shi family. The Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family are working together to take down our Shi family, huh? Although I'm a little surprised, I can't say that I didn't see this coming. Shi Mingzi sighed. You knew they'd attack? Yuan raised an eyebrow. Well, not really, but I always had this uncomfortable feeling about them, like they are up to no good. Shi Mingzi casually shrugged, her reaction to the situation somewhat lackluster. Regardless, I would like to extend my utmost gratitude to you as well as apologize for putting you in such a position. Yuan shook his head and said, I am doing this because I want to. You don't have to thank me. Anyways, we should continue our chatter later, once we end this whole thing, as the situation is still progressing as we speak. Patriarch Liang then said, since Azure Dragon City is much closer, we'll use the teleporter there to get back to our city as soon as possible. The four of them proceeded to rush toward the city. When they arrived at the teleporter, their presence, without a doubt, shocked everyone there. Isn't that Emperor Shi from ancient Dragon City? What is he doing all the way over here? That's Princess Shi, as well as Empress Shi. Almost their entire family is present. Shi Xingma walked straight to the front of the line to speak with the manager. Send us to ancient Dragon City immediately. He expected the manager to comply without any trouble, but to his surprise, the manager appeared hesitant as he stood there with a nervous look on his face. Need I repeat myself? Killing intent began appearing in Shi Xingma's gaze. All right, away. The manager immediately began moving swiftly. Should we kill him? He's obviously working with the Azure Dragon family. Shi Meili asked. Well, deal with it, a thorough investigation. He might be a victim as well, you know. Shi Mingzi calmly responded. Moments later, the teleporter was ready. Yuan and the others immediately entered the teleporter, arriving at the ancient Dragon City instantly. However, by the time they arrived, the entire city was already engulfed in chaos, as the Azure Dragon family's army and the Emerald Dragon family had arrived some time ago and started attacking the moment they arrived. Their sudden invasion definitely surprised the citizens, and with the Shi family's absence, they were unsure of what to do. With that being said, The citizens of ancient Dragon City did not wait around to be slaughtered and fought back. Those fucking bastards. Shi Xingmo's face twisted with anger as he witnessed the dire situation. Dear, you must return to the palace immediately and take control of our forces. We will stay behind and deal with these intruders. Shi Mingzi said to Shi Xingmo. Shi Xingmo nodded and quickly made his way back to the palace. Meanwhile, Yuan, Shi Meili, and Shi Mingzi went to take care of the intruders that were wreaking havoc within the city. Fortunately, that didn't take too long since there weren't that many intruders. However, that meant that the majority of the Azure Dragon family's and Emerald Dragon family's forces had yet to invade. Indeed, the majority of their forces were stationed outside the city, patiently waiting for Patriarch Liang's arrival before they fully engage, completely unaware that they were waiting for someone who would not show up no matter how long they waited. What is taking Patriarch Liang and General Zheng so long? They should have been here ages ago. Patriarch Cui complained as he was getting impatient. We had some unexpected trouble right after you left, but rest assured, they will be here shortly. General Wan said. Anyways, why isn't the Shi family responding to our presence? It's like they are not even here. This war might end sooner than we expected. Patriarch Cui wondered out loud. Though, as much as I want this war to end smoothly, that is only wishful thinking. I don't know what the Shi family is doing, but their silence is giving me an ominous feeling. C1215 Kneel. Chapter 1215 Kneel. 1215 Kneel. Kill the intruders. Defend the palace until my parents return. Shi Murong's voice echoed within the palace as he slaughtered the intruders. When the intruders showed up, Shi Murong took command of the guards to defend his home. Although the palace is heavily guarded, they were still outnumbered by the intruders. If it weren't for Xiaohua, Feng Yuxiang, and Lan Yingying's presence which the enemy did not account for, they would have had a much harder time defending the palace. By the time Shi Xingmo returned to the palace, the majority of intruders at the palace had already been taken care of. Murong, what is the situation? Shi Xingmo asked the moment he arrived. Father, the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's forces showed up out of the blue and started attacking our city. The palace is fine for now, but the city. Don't worry, your mother and sister are taking care of the city right now. As for our situation, the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family are working together to subdue us. Shi Xingmo said. What? Why would they do that? Don't tell me. Is this related to Shi Meili's marriage? Shi Murong could only think of one reason for their sudden aggression. No, it appears that they have been planning this even long before I was in power. We can talk more about this later, as we have a city to protect right now. By the way, where is General Sun? Shi Murong quickly responded. General Sun, along with the majority of our forces, went to confront the Azure Dragon family and Emerald Dragon family that have gathered outside our city, while leaving some behind to deal with the intruders. Shi Xingmo nodded. Let us quickly regroup with the others before we meet with the intruders. We will come with you, Feng Yuxiang said. Shi Xingmo nodded, as he had no objection. As they left the palace, Feng Yuxiang asked Shi Xingmo, why did you suddenly disappear? I went to investigate the dragon's roar. Dragon's roar? What are you talking about? Feng Yuxiang raised an eyebrow in a puzzled manner, as did Xiaohua and Lan Yingying. You didn't hear the dragon's roar? It happened not long ago. It was Shi Xingmo's turn to be puzzled. The dragon's roar was powerful enough to wake even those in a coma, so it was simply impossible to miss even if they were in a deep sleep. No, I didn't hear anything like that. Did you guys hear it? Feng Yuxiang turned to look at Xiaohua and Lan Yingying, who also shook their heads without hesitation. Weird. Maybe it's something only dragons can hear? Feng Yuxiang said a moment later. That's possible. Shi Xingmo began pondering inwardly. After learning about the invasion, he momentarily forgot to ask Yuan about the dragon's roar. Sometime later, they reunited with Yuan's group. Young master, are you hurt? Feng Yuxiang immediately rushed over to Yuan. He calmly shook his head. What about you guys? We were all cultivating in our rooms when the palace suddenly got attacked. Of course, we only suffered minor scratches that have already been healed. Shi Shengma then said, the majority of their forces are waiting outside the city for some reason. My forces are already there, but they will need our help. They are definitely waiting for Patriarch Liang before they launch their real attack. Unfortunately for them, he won't show up, ever. She merely chuckled. Sometime later, they arrived outside the city, where tens of thousands of enemy forces were gathered right before the front gates. The Shi family's forces were led by a middle-aged man, General Sun, who stood between the enemy forces and the city with a fearless expression on his face. Azure Dragon Family. Emerald Dragon Family. You guys must be out of your damn minds. Do you really think that you can take down the Shi family by working together? General Sun roared at them. You're as loud and obnoxious as ever, General Sunday. General Wan moved forward. If we weren't confident, we wouldn't be acting so brazening by attacking from the front, and without any trickery. Patriarch Chui laughed out loud. Oh, and where did you get such confidence? From Patriarch Liang? Shi Shengma spoke as he suddenly appeared before them. Emperor Shi. Patriarch Chui subconsciously tensed up after seeing him. The Shi family is here. Ready yourselves. General Wan warned their forces. Your Majesty, you have returned. General Sun immediately smiled upon seeing his arrival. I asked you a question, Patriarch Chui. Where did you get the confidence to attack my city and covet my wife, huh? Shi Shengmo repeated his question. Patriarch Chui frowned upon hearing the last part of Shi Shengmo's question. It wouldn't be weird for Shi Shengma to think that they were attacking his city because that was obvious, but Shi Shengma shouldn't know about his desire to take Shi Mingzi for himself, as that was something he recently revealed to Shi Meili. However, according to General Wan, Shi Meili did not return to the city, and actually went back to the Azure Dragon City. Why do you look surprised? Shi Meili's voice suddenly resounded as she appeared before Patriarch Chui. You. What are you doing here? General Wan was shocked to see Shi Meili in front of them. Should I not be here, in my own city? Shi Meili acted ignorant. What happened to General Zheng? Oh, that bastard. He's right here. Shi Meili snapped her finger, and the very next moment, a body fell from the sky. It was General Zheng's headless corpse. I would have also retrieved his head, but that wasn't possible. My apologies. Shi Meili sneered in a cold voice. You bastard. Before General Wan could fully grasp the situation, another body fell from the sky. This body was missing 2 limbs and a head, but General Wan and Patriarch Chui knew at a glance who this body belonged to because of the clothes. It was my lord. General Wan fell to his knees from shock. I am possible. Patriarch Cui's expression froze. It was at this moment Yuan showed up before them. Patriarch Chui didn't recognize Yuan, but General Wan instantly recognized him and knew that he was responsible for their deaths. How dare you? General Wan suddenly rushed at Yuan, his emotions completely out of control. Yuan didn't move and merely uttered a single word. Kneel. Although it was just a single word, when it was uttered, General Wan's world suddenly turned pitch black, and he could feel an otherworldly presence staring at him from the high heavens. General Wan wasn't alone. Everybody there, from Patriarch Chui to the soldiers at the back of the formation, watched their world suddenly consumed by darkness before being greeted by a massive golden eye. And before they realized it, everyone there was on their knees. Why Yuan? Yuan could hear Shi Shengma calling for him in a struggling voice, and when he turned around he was shocked to see that Shi Shengma and Shi Mingzi were on the verge of kneeling as well. As for General Sun and the rest of their forces, they were already on their knees. Yuan had only intended to use Dragon's Gaze on the enemy forces, but he had underestimated the power of his Dragon's Gaze while still affected by his transformation, accidentally troubling his allies. Sorry. Yuan immediately deactivated his Dragon's Gaze and apologized afterward. C1216, Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. Chapter 1216, Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. 1216, Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. After Yuan deactivated Dragon's Gaze, everyone there could finally breathe again. And although it had only been activated for several seconds, it was enough to cripple half of the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's army, as those with a weak mentality had their spirits broken almost instantly after being targeted by Dragon's gaze. For some unfortunate souls, their souls shattered under the spiritual attack, perishing from this world without a chance to reincarnate. As for Yuan's allies, since he didn't directly target them, nobody had their souls shattered. Though, many of them still suffered damage that incapacitated them for the rest of the battle. So that's what it feels like to be on the other end. Feng Yuxiang muttered in a low voice as she slowly recovered from her shock. Her face and body were soaked in a cold sweat after experiencing Dragon's gaze directly for the first time. Lan Yingying had a similar appearance, but since she was younger than Feng Yuxiang by tens of thousands of years, she suffered significantly more. If she weren't a divine beast, her soul might have been in danger just now. "Are you okay?" Xiao Hua asked Lan Yingying after seeing her condition. "Yes. Somehow." Lan Yingying nodded after she took several deep breaths. Lan Yingying was surprised when she turned to look at Xiao Hua, whose breathing was only slightly heavier than usual, looking like she'd only gone for a light jog at the park. How come you seem perfectly fine?" She couldn't help but ask. Xiao Hua looked at her own palms, and after a moment of silence she spoke in a low voice. "I don't know. Compared to everyone else there, including Shi Shengma and Shi Mingze who had the highest cultivation there, Xiao Hua appeared to be the least affected by Yuan's dragon's gaze." This made Lan Yingying wonder if Xiao Hua had been lucky and wasn't affected by the dragon's gaze as much as the rest, or if her soul was strong enough to withstand the dragon's gaze. After all, dragon's gaze is a spiritual technique that targeted one's soul, meaning that it would be less effective on those with a stronger soul, especially when compared to the one who used the technique. As everyone else slowly recovered, Shi Shengma stared at Yuan with a profound expression on his face. "I am truly sorry about that." Yuan apologized again after seeing Shi Shengma's face. "There's no need to apologize twice. I'm not angry," Shi Shengma said. And he continued in a mumbling voice. "Your dragon's gaze. I thought it was only a legend, but..." "Legend?" Yuan raised an eyebrow. Shi Shengma shook his head and said, "I will explain it to you later, after we clean up this mess." "All right." Shi Shengma then approached Patriarch Cui and General Wan, who was still in recovery from their shock. "This is your last chance to surrender. As you just witnessed for yourselves, my friend here can destroy all of your plans and forces with but a mere dragon's gaze. You have no chance of winning this war. If you lower your heads and surrender willingly now, I will show mercy and give you to a painless death. However, if you still wish to struggle, I will make it my life's mission to make your lives as miserable as possible, until you die of natural causes." General Wan and Patriarch Cui's bodies tremble violently after hearing such a threat. With lifespans spanning 500,000 years at their cultivation with ease, the mere mention of enduring torment for such an eternity sent chills through their weakened souls, evoking an unimaginable dread that echoed throughout their entire being. General Wan, who was already on his knees, kissed the ground with his forehead and said, "I surrender. Please have mercy." Even if Patriarch Liang and General Zheng were still alive, he doubted they would be able to defeat a monster like Yuan. Patriarch Cui also surrendered after seeing General Wan's response, which did not surprise Shi Shengma in the slightest. If he were in their shoes, he would also surrender without any hesitation. As long as someone like Yuan protected the Shi family, nothing in this world would be able to threaten them, and he was only but a single entity. When their leaders General Wan and Patriarch Wan surrendered, the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's soldiers dropped their weapons and kowtowed before the ancient dragon city. Unbelievable. A war yet to truly begin, yet ended with just a single glance. Who on earth is this enigmatic expert? General Sun and the others on his side wondered inwardly as they stared at Yuan's handsome face with unfathomable respect and admiration. "Is it really over?" Shi Murong swallowed nervously, his face full of disbelief. "General Sun, take everyone here away," Shi Shengma suddenly roared. "As you command, Your Majesty," General Sun shouted back. Over the next few hours, General Sun and the Shi family's forces would swiftly seize the surrendered enemy troops and imprison them. However, due to the sheer amount of prisoners, the Shi family had to create temporary prisons just to hold them all. Meanwhile, Yuan and the Shi family returned to the palace. I truly do not know how to thank you for your assistance this time, Yuan. Even if I gave you my position as the Dragon Emperor of this small world, it would still not be enough. Shi Xingma sighed. You are still thinking about such a thing? Just forget it. Yuan smiled. And he asked, anyways, what now? Although the majority of the invaders have surrendered, there is still much to be done with the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family, not to mention the cities they rule over. Shi Mingzi sighed out loud. We'll have to investigate everything thoroughly and properly, and that alone could take years. For now, I will send some of our men to take control over their cities so that it doesn't become too chaotic. After all, with the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family out of the picture, there will be people eyeing their position. Once things settle down, we will begin our investigation, Shi Xingma said. What about you, Yuan? How much longer will you be staying here? Now that you mention it, I haven't thought about that at all. Though I probably won't be staying here for much longer. At least until everything settles down and I am certain that there is nothing left that could threaten your family. Thank you. Shi Xingma nodded with a rare smile on his face. Oh, and before I forget, you mentioned something about my dragon's gaze. Yuan suddenly reminded him. Shi Xingma's expression became serious and he spoke. Indeed, the dragon's gaze you used back then. It wasn't your ordinary dragon's gaze. How so? Yuan raised an eyebrow. Well, normally, dragon's gaze will only work on those you have direct eye contact with, but what you did was anything but that, as it affected even those you were not looking at. Shi Xingma said. After taking a moment to think, he continued. According to a family legend, there exists a superior version of dragon's gaze that only those with the purest and strongest bloodline could wield, and my father would call it dragon's authority. C1217 Dragon's Authority. Chapter 1217 Dragon's Authority. 1217 Dragon's Authority. Dragon's Authority? Yuan mumbled, his eyes flickering with excitement. Indeed. According to my father's knowledge, dragon's gaze can be used by any dragon with a royal bloodline, or what humans call an imperial-grade bloodline. However, dragons with a divine-grade bloodline will have access to dragon's authority, which, as its name suggests, gives them authority over dragons. Shi Xingma said. Yuan then said, that sounds like those with dragon's authority can command other dragons. Exactly. As long as their target has an inferior bloodline or a weaker soul strength, they can essentially command them to do anything. Shi Meili and Shi Murong swallowed nervously after hearing this. They cannot imagine being affected by dragon's authority and forced to do things unwillingly. Of course, they experienced it firsthand very recently, but it wasn't directed at them, so they didn't count it. Dragon's authority, huh? How interesting. Shi Mingzi, on the other hand, seemed intrigued by its concept and effects. She turned to look at Yuan with a smile. Would you like to practice on me? What are you saying? Shi Xingma looked at her with a dumbfounded expression. I don't think he's mastered it yet, so I want to help him to do so. I doubt anyone here besides you and I will be able to endure it without being injured, so unless you want to be the dummy. After pondering for a moment, Shi Xingma sighed. All right, just don't take things too far. He turned to look at Yuan and continued. This is the least we can do to thank you. Thank you. Yuan nodded. Well, start training in a few days once things settle down. Shi Mingzi said, and she continued. You should get some rest for now. Yuan retired to his room shortly after. Meanwhile, Shi Mingzi and Shi Xingma continued to deal with the incident. As for Shi Meili, she went to get her injuries checked before getting some rest. However, Yuan did not go to sleep. He lay on the bed and closed his eyes, but his consciousness was wide awake as he went through the dragon goddess memories. Meanwhile, Shi Xingma went to the Azure Dragon City to take control of their city. He captured everybody from the Azure Dragon family, and those with a connection, interrogating all of them intensively over the next several days. Shi Shengma was shocked to learn that the Azure Dragon family had been planning and preparing their invasion for over 1 million years now. He also learned that the majority of the Azure Dragon family had been kept out of the loop, so these people were just as surprised as everyone else when they learned what had happened. Meanwhile, Shi Mingzi traveled to the Emerald Dragon City to investigate the Emerald Dragon family. She was surprised to learn that pretty much nobody in the city even had an idea about the incident, only learning about it after her arrival. As for the Azure Dragon City, they were alerted by the commotion caused by Yuan, so they believed that they were the ones being invaded. During his investigation, Shi Shengma found Liang Xian, who had been hiding like a rat inside the city. Shi Shengma immediately sent Liang Xian back to the ancient dragon city for questioning, as he was essentially as rooted in the incident as Patriarch Liang. When Shi Mei learned of this discovery, she personally volunteered to do the investigation. Shi Shengma objected at first, but he eventually gave in and allowed Shi Mei to handle Liang Xian's investigation. Once Liang Xian was in her hands, Shi Mei said to the guards, "Uncuff him and treat his injuries." What? The guards were baffled by her commands. "Just do it. As you command." Once Liang Xian fully recovered from his injuries, Shi Mei dragged him to the training area within the Dragon Palace. What are you planning on doing to me, Shi Mei? Liang Xian growled at her. "Nothing much. We're just going to spar a little." Shi Mei casually responded. "Spar?" Liang Xian had a confused look on his face. "If you can defeat me, I will let you go. However, if I win, you will tell me everything you know. How does that sound?" "Are you serious?" "Of course. Princess. You cannot decide such a thing without His Majesty's approval first." The guards began panicking. "Shut up. My father already gave me permission to do whatever I want to him." Shi Mei snapped at them. She then turned to Liang Xian and continued, "There will be no limitations and no rules. Do you have anything to say before we begin?" "What if I kill you?" Liang Xian asked. "Do you really think that is possible?" Shi Mei sneered. Shi Mei and Liang Xian had similar cultivation, both being at the peak of Spirit Emperor. However, Shi Mei has superior techniques and a superior bloodline. Although the chances of Liang Xian defeating Shi Mei were close to zero, it was not completely impossible. "All right. Don't you dare go back on your words," Liang Xian said with a slight smile on his face. Their sparring began shortly after. And over the next several hours, the guards there would bear witness to a brutal beating that could only be described as unbearable. Shi Mei was beating Liang Xian so badly that it could no longer be called a spar, but a one-sided torture. Liang Xian's blood stained the stage, pieces of his flesh scattered about, and all of his teeth were laying around in a shattered state, resembling dust more than anything. Liang Xian's face was so swollen and bloodied that he could barely utter these words. "What did you just say? I can't hear you," Shi Mei calmly said before driving her fist directly into Liang Xian's guts, forcing him to puke out a mouthful of fresh blood. When Liang Xian fell to his knees for the umpteenth time, Shi Mei gracefully kicked him in the face, sending him flying to the other side of the arena and drawing another bloody line on the platform. She then walked over to him and forcefully fed him some medicine. After making sure he swallowed the medicine, Shi Mei stood there with her bloodied arms crossed in front of her chest, patiently waiting for Liang Xian to stand back up. "Dear Lord!" The guards shuddered in fear, as they have never seen this brutal side of Shi Mei before. C1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Chapter 1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou. 1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Why are you still on the ground? Get up! Shi Mei looked down upon Liang Xian with a slight frown on her face when he refused to stand up even after recovering. I had enough. Can we just end this?" He responded in a tired voice, seemingly out of the energy and will to continue. "Of course, we can end it right now. But are you sure you want to die already?" Shi Mei calmly said. Liang Xian's body trembled upon hearing her words, which basically told him that he'd die if he gave up. Liang Xian mumbled in an inaudible tone a moment later. "Ha! What did you say?" Shi Mei subconsciously leaned forward. "I said die." Liang Xian suddenly sprang into action, and went for Shimei's throat with his claw-like hands, his gaze bursting with killing intent. A cold smile appeared on Shimei's face, and almost as if she anticipated his trick, she gracefully dodged his grasp with ease before grabbing his hand and crushing it with immense strength. Arg! Liang Xian screamed out in pain as his hand became unrecognizable and many times smaller than originally. How pathetic! Shimei sneered afterward. And you wanted me to marry you? When you're this weak and despicable? You make me laugh. Her words were like sharp swords piercing Liang Xian's heart. Not only was she tormenting him physically, she damaging him mentally as well. Shimei would continue to torment Liang Xian without stopping over the next several days until Liang Xian truly couldn't continue any longer. I'm bored. Well, continue this another day, Shimei said to him. Guards, take him away for questioning. If he fails to answer a single question, bring him back here and call for me. After saying such words to the dazed guards, Shimei went to clean herself. And once that was done, she tried to see Yuan. Unfortunately, Yuan was not available for some reason. Is he in closed cultivation? Shimei wondered out loud as she left his doorstep. Meanwhile, Yuan was still busy looking through Dragon Goddess Yi's memories. Despite it only being a small fragment of her memories, it contained more than 100,000 years worth of memories. At the beginning of her memories, Yuan could only see complete darkness, almost as though he was in the void. This scenery remained like that for thousands of years, which made Yuan wonder if there was something wrong with the memories at first. Eventually something changed. A slit of horizontal light appeared in this darkness, slowly growing larger, until Yuan could see new scenery. It was at this moment that Yuan realized the darkness was simply the dragon goddess Yeyou sleeping. When dragon goddess Yeyou awoke from her 1,000-year-long slumber, she was first greeted by a tall figure standing not far away from her. However, when compared to her own size, this tall figure was only but the size of an ant, so in her eyes, it was akin to being disturbed by an insect. Dragon goddess Yeyou was about to curse at this figure, but before she got the chance, this figure spoke first. I hope I didn't disturb your slumber, dragon god. And what will you do if you did? Die for me? Dragon goddess Yeyou responded. You can try to kill me if you'd like, but I would like to request that you do so after we have a little chat. I have nothing to say to a human. Dragon goddess Yeyou sneered. She also did not miss the small detail of try to kill in his speech, which implies that she might not be able to kill him. Normally, she'd kill someone this disrespectful without giving them another thought, but she just woke up from a long slumber and couldn't be bothered to move around so soon. And there was something about this human that she could not pinpoint. The figure chuckled. Don't be like that, dragon god. When was the last time you spoke to a human? 1,000,000 years ago? 10 million? It has been at least 100 million years since dragon goddess Yeyou has spoken to a human, but she did not admit such a thing to this human. Well, we don't really need to chat if you don't want to. Instead, just listen to me. This human continued to speak without an ounce of fear in his voice, which puzzled dragon goddess Yeyou, as she has never encountered a human that did not fear her. In fact, even demons that were known to have no fear would show signs of fear when they encounter her. Does this human not understand what it means to be fearful? No. Even those who have never experienced fear would instinctively be fearful of me. Perhaps he's not actually human? Dragon goddess Yeyou wondered inwardly as the human continued to speak. As you probably know by now, the war between humans and demons has finally come to an end after countless years of strife. Although most are celebrating by now, I cannot help but wonder why humans had to fight the demons alone, even though the beasts also suffered from their torment. After all, if we, humans and beasts, had fought together, the war could have ended much sooner. What? Humans defeated the demons? Do you take me for an ignorant dragon, enough to believe such blatant lies? Dragon goddess Yeyou did not believe the human initially, but the human seemed more surprised by the fact that she did not know about the end of the war, even though hundreds of thousands of years have passed. It appears I have underestimated the amount of sleep a supreme dragon requires. The human spoke with a profound smile on his face, looking as though he was delighted to learn this information. Anyways, you are free to do your own research if you do not believe me, but it has been approximately 400,000 years since humans defeated demons. I'm even willing to wait until you confirm my truth before we continue this chat. Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless, and she found this human to be increasingly interesting with every passing second, but this fact would not be realized by her for a very long time. Chapter 1219. Published at 19th of September, 2023, 3:30 and 15 seconds AM. Chapter 1219. 1219. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1219. Dragon Goddess Yeyou 2. 1219. Dragon Goddess Yeyou 2. Let's say I believe you, that the weak and fragile existence known as humans managed to defeat the somewhat immortal beings known as demons. What does that have to do with me? Why are you standing before me? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked the human man standing calmly before her. Even though humans won the war in the end, it came at a tremendous cost. Countless humans have been tormented, eaten, killed, and experienced unspeakable things. I'm sure the same could be said for beasts, as demons would hunt beasts for fun, almost like a game, something they do to pass time until they grow hungry for humans. Both humans and beasts suffered greatly from demons, yet we never fought together. I understand that we have our differences, but we could have prevented much tragedy from happening if we did. Perhaps that is because nobody tried, whether it be due to a lack of courage or something else. Hence why I am here today. Dragon Goddess Yeyou did not respond for a long time. After a long moment of silence, Dragon Goddess Yeyou spoke in a low voice. So what, you want humans and beasts to hold hands or something? The human could hear a hint of mockery and disdain within the Dragon Goddess' voice. Not being bothered by it, he spoke. I am not saying that we should hold hands with each other, but I would like to see a day when humans can approach beasts without fearing for their lives and beasts won't feel threatened by humans when they are approached, just like you and I. Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly burst out laughing, causing the world they were on to shake violently. In fact, her laughter was so strong that if the human hadn't covered himself with spiritual energy, he would have died an explosive death. When she stopped laughing, she spoke. Even if what you say is true, that humans and beasts do not get along, what can you do to change it? How do you intend on convincing all of the humans to not fear beasts and beasts to not despise humans? That seems like an impossible feat no matter how I think about it. The human shook his head. I don't need to convince every human and beast. I only need to convince those at the top, and everyone else will eventually follow suit. And what could be better than starting from the very peak? How about it, Dragon God? Want to work together with me? I'm sure it'll be a whole lot more interesting than sleeping and fighting weaklings all the time. Dragon Goddess Yeyou narrowed her eyes and asked in a cold voice. You speak as though you know my life. Well, according to what I've been told, you like to pick fights with other beasts, but because of your unmatched prowess, you have an extremely hard time finding worthy opponents, so you just bully others until you grow tired and sleep. And when you wake up, you will repeat the cycle again and again. If I am wrong, please correct me. I'd like to learn more about a being at the apex of this world. Dragon Goddess Yeyou fell silent, and the human could not tell what she was thinking or feeling, but Yuan could. As he was seeing and feeling things from her point of view, he could tell that the Dragon Goddess was embarrassed and angered by the human's words, as he essentially called her lazy and a bully. Even worse, she could not argue back, as what the human said about her was true. Due to her being one of the apex beings in the world, it was pretty much impossible to find someone who could match her prowess, so she is always bored and looking to entertain herself. After finding some beasts to mess around with, she would slumber for thousands of years in hopes of a worthy opponent to appear. And this has been her routine for countless years now. To be reminded of such a miserable life made her embarrassed and angry at the same time. In a slightly trembling voice, Dragon Goddess Yeyou responded. Very well. If you insist, I will entertain you and your foolish ambitions. However, I will do so only if you can defeat me. Otherwise, you can die here with your ambitions. Without any other warnings, Dragon Goddess Yeyou's golden eyes began emitting a profound light. Suddenly assaulted by Dragon Goddess Yeyou's dragon's gaze, the human directly coughed up a mouthful of blood, but that was not enough to make him collapse. as expected of the dragon god. A slight smile appeared on the human's face as he retrieved a black sword. But if you want to kill me, you will need to do better than that. The human swung the sword at dragon goddess Yeyou, sending a massive sword light that was fully created from enhanced sword aura at her. Dragon goddess Yeyou merely scoffed at his attack before swatting the sword light with nothing but her tail, causing the enhanced sword aura to scatter and fly everywhere. The scattered enhanced sword aura poured down the world dragon goddess Yeyou was on, creating deep sword cuts everywhere. You bastard! How dare you damage my bed? Do you have any idea how long it took me to find a world big enough to fit me comfortably? Dragon goddess Yeyou roared in an enraged tone as she uncoiled her massive body from the world that she had been sleeping on, revealing a vast yet completely empty world that only had green grass growing on it. You can't complain when you're the one who attacked first, the human said as he wiped the blood from his lips. This enraged dragon goddess Yeyou even further, but she did not immediately attack him again. She wrapped the end of her tail around the world she called her bed and flicked it, shooting the world millions of miles in the blink of an eye and causing it to disappear into the void. The human couldn't help but chuckle after seeing her actions. You weren't kidding when you said it was hard to find a suitable bed. I'm not surprised though, seeing how big you are. Why don't you take the form of a human? It'll be easier for you to move around that way. You insolent human bastard. Dragon goddess Yeyou felt insulted when the human called her body big. No matter if they are beasts or humans, whether it was true or not, it was taboo to call females big. Meanwhile, the human misunderstood dragon goddess Yeyou's anger, thinking that it was due to his suggestion to take the form of a human, as that was unthinkable in their era. For a beast to take the form of a human, it was akin to a human moving and barking like an animal. An insulting act that only those unhealthy in the mind would dare imagine. The human knew this, of course. Despite that, he still suggested it to her for some reason. Following an explosive roar, dragon goddess Yeyou proceeded to attack the human seriously this time, marking the beginning of their long battle that would not end for several years. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1220 The Great Enlightenment. Chapter 1220 The Great Enlightenment. 1220 The Great Enlightenment. Within days of Dragon Princess Yeyou and the humans' fight, over a dozen stars had been reduced to mere rubble floating in the starry sky. Every time their overwhelming spiritual energy collided with each other, a world-ending and star-collapsing ripple would sweep the starry sky. The commotion caused by their fighting eventually alerted the experts cultivating in the starry sky, and regardless if they are human or beast, they were shocked by what they witnessed. The beasts couldn't believe their eyes when they realized Dragon Goddess Yeyou's opponent was a mere human man. As for the humans, many of them were seeing Dragon Goddess Yeyou for the first time, and they were simply baffled by her majestic presence and unfathomable strength. Who is that human? And why is he fighting with the Dragon Goddess? He's actually holding his own against a monster like her. I didn't think I would get to see someone fighting on equal footing with her in this lifetime, much less a human. I doubt hell lasts for long. More importantly, Dragon Goddess Yeyou has awoken. We need to warn the others and prepare for another 10,000-year-long torments before their fight ends. After watching their fight for a short while, most of the beasts stopped watching and left to warn other beasts of Dragon Goddess Yeyou's awakening. After all, every time Dragon Goddess Yeyou wakes up from her slumber, the first thing she always does is look for a fight. What? The Dragon Goddess has awoken from her slumber already? Why did she wake up so quickly this time? Apparently some human woke her up, and they're now fighting each other in the starry sky. Fucking humans. They're always making things more difficult for us. At least hell die by the Dragon Goddess claws. All of the beasts expected the human to last only several days against Dragon Goddess Yeyou. But to their surprise, they were still fighting even several months later. What? The Dragon Goddess is still fighting the same human? She must be going easy on him so that it wouldn't end too quickly. That must be why, right? Even the Water Dragon Emperor can't last more than half a year against her. and he has never lost to any humans before. The beasts truly believed that dragon goddess Yeyou was going easy on the human, so that she could prolong their fight on purpose, something she has done on multiple occasions, especially when she is extremely bored. The beasts stopped paying attention to the fight shortly after, and continued their preparations again. Eventually, months turned into years, and years became decades. The beasts were absolutely gobsmacked when they learned that dragon goddess Yeyou was still being occupied by the same human even after 10 years. I just traveled to the starry sky and spectated the dragon goddess fight. She's not going easy on that human. In fact, she's seriously trying to kill him. One of the beasts spread this information after watching the fight for some time. I was there as well. There were many spectators, humans and beasts. A human rivaling the dragon goddess? How can such a powerful human exist? Who is this human? For the first time since their fight began, the beasts started paying attention to the fight more closely, and began questioning the human's identity. Meanwhile, the humans have been watching the fight since the beginning. Some of them even gained enlightenment from watching their fight. When news began spreading, more and more experts began to spectate their fight. Of course, since the fight took place within the starry sky, only those who had the means and resources to travel there could witness the legendary fight. Immortals, disciples of these immortals, all sorts of renowned individuals would travel to the starry sky and risk their lives just to witness the fight. Due to the tremendous spiritual energy being released by the dragon goddess and the human, their clashes created life-threatening shockwaves that shattered nearby stars and evaporated those who got too close to their fight, regardless of their cultivation. And even immortals have perished to the shockwaves. Despite the risks, countless people still ventured to the starry sky. And throughout the years, many people gained enlightenment from their fight and achieved great things. And this period of time was called the Great Enlightenment by many. Master, how many years have they been fighting for now? A disciple asked. It would be the 69th year in 3 days. They have been fighting for that long. How is that even possible? Do they have an unlimited supply of spiritual energy or something? Another disciple asked. Entities at their level have an unfathomable amount of spiritual energy, but it's mostly their spiritual energy absorption rate that's keeping them going. They only use about the same or fewer than they can absorb, allowing them to fight for a prolonged amount of time. While it may not seem like that to us, who are far beneath their level, they're not really going all out. Then how do they defeat each other? When one makes a mistake or catches the other off guard and deals a decisive blow, though they will eventually start using more and more spiritual energy in their attacks. As of right now, they're simply just using each other for entertainment. So they're just playing around right now. Unbelievable. Logic does not apply to entities at the peak of this world. Try not to think too much about it, or you will go insane like some people. As for the beasts, they also gained enlightenment, especially those of the dragon race. Have we found out anything about that human's identity? One of the beasts there asked. No, nothing. It's almost as though he appeared out of thin air. We don't even know if he's really human or not. For all we know, he could be a ghost. Just who is that man? Despite their differences, both humans and beasts wanted the fight to last forever. But alas, everything in life will eventually come to an end. And after 200 years of constant fighting, the fight finally came to an end with a clear winner and loser. C1221 Not even 1,000 years old. Chapter 1221 Not even 1,000 years old. 1221 Not even 1,000 years old. Ha. Dragon goddess Yeyou took deep breaths as she silently stared at the human man floating in the distance not far away from her. Her gaze filled with emotion and fulfillment. Yuan could see very clearly what she was thinking inside her head. It has been countless years since she last experienced a satisfying fight that did not leave her wanting more. Although I was clearly beyond his league in the beginning, this bastard kept improving at an astonishing rate, and in just a few decades he reached the point where he could fight me on equal footing. Just who is this bastard? Dragon goddess Yeyou felt like she had been used by the human man as a training dummy. However, she wasn't angry. as she also benefited greatly from the fight. Meanwhile, the human had a bittersweet smile on his face as his body lifelessly drifted further away from the dragon goddess, who was victorious in this fight. I had an amazing time with you during the last 200 years. Unfortunately, it lasted a little shorter than I had anticipated. Perhaps if I hadn't given in to my impatience and trained for another 1,000 years, I might have been able to realize my ambitions. The human man uttered in a weak voice as his life force continued to dwindle. It was only a matter of time before he met his death after exhausting all of his energy and life force that he sacrificed to prolong their fight. However, when Dragon Goddess Yeyou heard his last words, her satisfied expression immediately froze. Then in a low and grim voice she asked him, "Another 1,000 years? How old are you?" "I should be around 950 years old now." The human man responded with difficulty. What did you say?" Dragon Goddess Ye's eyes widened with immense disbelief and shock. "I am possible," she roared, refusing to believe that she was nearly defeated by a human that wasn't even 1,000 years old. When the spectators learned that the human man was actually younger than the majority of them there, they also expressed a wide array of emotions, but mostly that of shock and disbelief. Almost everyone there was well over 100,000 years old, with some even numbering in the millions. Yet nobody there would even dare to attempt to fight an entity like the Dragon Goddess. But somehow a human that isn't 1,000 years old managed to last 200 years fighting the Dragon Goddess? Nobody would want to believe such a thing even if they witnessed it with their own eyes, as such an existence naturally mocked their talents and efforts all the way to the heavens. He must be joking. There's no way he's only 950 years old. That would mean he was only 750 years old when he started fighting. I barely reached divine sovereign by that age, and I was recognized as a once-in-lifetime genius by the entire world. A renowned human expert there expressed his thoughts, feeling like he was on the verge of an existential crisis, breaking the silence there. The thousands of experts there immediately began mumbling to each other as they wondered if the human man was speaking of the truth or simply lying on his deathbed for shock value. The fact that nobody here recognizes him gives his claim some credit. That means nothing. He could be really old, so old that nobody here recognizes him. Someone else made this argument. As someone who has lived for over 5 million years, I can say that I have never heard of him before. With that being said, I have this nostalgic feeling when I see his face, yet I cannot recall where I have seen that face before. Meanwhile, Dragon Goddess Yeyou slowly recovered from her shock, and after pondering for a brief moment, she suddenly approached the human man. When she arrived before the human, Dragon Goddess Ye's body began emitting a blinding light that turned the void completely white for a brief moment. When the light dimmed, the massive dragon that could easily swallow a world was nowhere to be seen, and another human figure suddenly appeared in the starry sky, hovering right before the human man. This figure was that of a woman with ethereal beauty and a divine aura, resembling a goddess created by heaven itself. Her being was a tapestry of awe-inspiring elements. Her cascading, silken golden hair flowed like an endless river behind her, a manifestation of grace. Her eyes, a radiant gold, held both the brilliance of the sun and the depth of ancient wisdom, their vertical pupils reminiscent of a feline's gaze. Possessing a stature both tall and slender, her form seemed to bridge the realms of the ethereal and the earthly. Adorned with golden halos encircling her wrists and ankles, she bore an aura that whispered of a world beyond their current one. The human men there were instantaneously enraptured by the emergence of this unparalleled beauty, stirred by an emotion long lost to their memories. Even the beasts present were entranced by her presence, despite her humanoid guise that they have disdained for their entire lives. The dragon goddess has taken the form of a human? The beasts were in disbelief when they realized the situation. The transformation of a beast into a human was not merely a shift in appearance. It symbolized a profound change, a voluntary descent from a state they considered superior to embody the very beings they had spurned and considered inferiors. Moreover, dragon goddess Yeyou far transcended the realm of ordinary creatures. As a divine beast, she occupied the pinnacle of the cultivation world and the hierarchy of all beasts. Her choice to assume human form was an unprecedented event, one that would forever change the way other beasts and humans viewed her. I had always regarded humans as lesser beings, unworthy of even a fragment of my esteem or notice. Yet, a human who has existed for a mere fraction of the time it takes me to nap has somehow bewildered me and ignited my curiosity. Dragon Goddess Yeyou gently held her hands on her chest, retrieving an orb of light from within her body. It would be a pity to let you die now, human. She then blew at the orb of light in the human's direction, causing the orb of light to fly into his lifeless body. The human man's body began emitting a warm light, and the injuries on his body immediately started disappearing at a rate that could be witnessed with one's bare eyes. I am not doing this out of mercy, nor is this an act of righteousness. This is merely a self-centered endeavor on my part. Until you quench my curiosity, I will not let you die. After the human man's injuries were fully mended, and even his life force had been rejuvenated, which only took mere seconds, he gradually opened his eyes. The human was sure that he had perished, yet he somehow survived. He looked at the beauty hovering before him and immediately realized the situation, and he proceeded to speak with a slight smile. So you were a female all along? I couldn't tell by your beastly voice. Dragon Goddess Ye's eyebrows uncontrollably twitched upon hearing his words, but she quickly controlled her emotions and asked, "What is your name?" I hadn't introduced myself yet? My apologies. After adjusting his posture, he continued with a handsome smile on his face, "My name is Tian. C1215 Primordial Phoenix. Chapter 1222 Primordial Phoenix. 1222 Primordial Phoenix. Tian. So, what do you plan on doing now that you have my attention? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked him. An awkward smile appeared on Tian's face as he responded. To tell you the truth, I don't have a plan. In fact, I hadn't planned past meeting you, as I didn't expect to find you so quickly in this vast universe. It must be the work of fate, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Unbelievable. You really came to me without a plan? What if I did not save you and left you to die instead? Then that would be that. After all, I had prepared on losing my life before meeting you. But that didn't happen, and with you by my side now, I doubt anything could threaten my life. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned. Why are you assuming that I will be following you? You want? Well, that's fine as well, since you will definitely be watching over me at the very least. Tian chuckled. Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless. By the way, Dragon Goddess, what is your name? Do you even have one? Of course I have a name. Why did you assume otherwise? Nobody I talked to knew it and only addressed you as the Dragon God even though they were aware of your existence, so I wondered if you had a name or not. Yeyou, that is my name. And how do you want me to address you from now on? Goddess Yeyou? Dragon Yeyou? Dragon Goddess Yeyou? Lady Yeyou? Until you can defeat me, I forbid you from using my name. Dragon Goddess Ye's reason for making this rule was so that she had an excuse to fight him again. Is that how things work for you guys? Then I will call you Dragon Goddess until then. Tian calmly smiled. She calmly nodded. Anyways, while I don't have a plan, I do know who I want to visit next. Tian then said. A divine beast? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked. He nodded. An ancient beast just like you. One known as Empress of Flames and Goddess of Rebirth, Primordial Phoenix. Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly sucked her teeth in an annoyed manner. Tian looked at her with raised eyebrows and asked, What's the matter? Nothing worth mentioning, but if you're going to see that dumb pigeon, I want to accompany you to see her. Dumb pigeon? I guess even divine beasts have their own drama. Tian couldn't help but crack a smile upon learning this information. Don't go making your own assumptions. I wouldn't stoop so low to have drama with a stupid chicken. She's not worth it. Tian pondered for a moment before speaking. I have heard that dragons and phoenixes naturally don't get along. There seems to be some truth to this rumor. Is there a reason why you don't like the primordial phoenix? Phoenixes are born arrogant, and the primordial phoenix is the most arrogant of them all. I simply can't stand being around her. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said. Tian looked at her with a weird expression. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned at this and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Well, in the eyes of humans, dragons are also arrogant creatures." "How rude." "Or prideful. Not arrogant. There's a difference." Dragon Goddess Yeyou rebuked. But she did not stop there. Meanwhile, phoenixes are obviously arrogant. They have no pride, are shameless, selfish, and, after spending several minutes complaining about phoenixes and comparing them with dragons, Dragon Goddess Yeyou finally ended it with, "Do you now understand why phoenixes and dragons don't get along?" "Yes, I think I do," Tiani said with a slight smile. "Do you still want to meet her?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou then asked. "Of course. Regardless of her personality, even if it's the nastiest in the world, I still want to speak with her, just like how I came to speak with you even at the risk of my own life. You're a weird human." Once their conversation ended, Tiani left the scene to find the Primordial Phoenix. Fortunately for him, the Primordial Phoenix wasn't as hard to find compared to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, as she had a larger presence with the world while Dragon Goddess Yeyou barely interacted with the world. As for Dragon Goddess Yeyou, although she claimed that she wouldn't follow Tiani to meet with the Primordial Phoenix, she still tagged along in the end, acting as though she never said such a thing. Tiani didn't question it either. Thus, the two of them traveled the world for several years in search of the Primordial Phoenix, following traces left behind by her. After a decade of following the Primordial Phoenix's footsteps, Tiani finally located her. "Is this how you found me?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked him as they made their way to the Primordial Phoenix's location. "Yes, but much fewer people knew of your existence compared to the Primordial Phoenix, who is much more active than you. Not only does she have connections with humans, she's even got a business in the human world, much to my surprise. Her existence is the closest representation of my ambitions right now." "If that's the case, why did you seek me out first? Wouldn't it benefit your ambitions more if you had gone to the Primordial Phoenix first?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou looked at him with a puzzled expression on her ethereal face. "That's simple. I came to you first because my desire to meet you was stronger than my desire to see her." Tian-Yi responded with a handsome smile on his face. His response left Dragon Goddess Yeyou speechless. Several more months passed as Tian-Yi and Dragon Goddess Yeyou left the world known as Divine Heaven and traversed into the starry sky to find the Primordial Phoenix. "That must be the Primordial Phoenix, also known as Feng Yeming." Tian-Yi mumbled in a low voice as he could see a small ball of flames in the distance. Although the Primordial Phoenix looked tiny from his position, they were actually millions of miles apart, so it was akin to looking at a star from Earth. Tian-Yi turned to look at Dragon Goddess Yeyou and asked her, "Should I meet her alone?" "No, I will come with you. I want to see if she's gotten any dumber since our last meeting," Dragon Goddess Yeyou said. Tian-Yi could only smile at her remarks. Then they chased after her, catching up within minutes. Chapter 1223. Published at 19th of September, 2023, 3:30 and 9 seconds AM. Chapter 1223. 1223. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1223. Primordial Phoenix 2. 1223. Primordial Phoenix 2. When Dragon Goddess Yeyou and Tian-Yi got close enough, the Primordial Phoenix halted its movements and sprung around, sending its divine flames flying all over the place. Tian-Yi calmly dodged the flames that could easily burn even an immortal to death in an instant. Meanwhile, Dragon Goddess Yeyou merely flicked the flames away from her body, like she was swatting away flies. "Sneaking up behind me. Are you looking for an early death?" The Primordial Phoenix spoke a moment later. "It may have been some time since we last fought, but do you really think you have what it takes to kill me now, you dumb pigeon?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered coldly. "Dumb pigeon." The Primordial Phoenix immediately glared at Dragon Goddess Yeyou with enough killing intent to actually kill someone. However, the Primordial Phoenix's eyes suddenly widened with shock. "Either my eyes are deceiving me right now, or you are that annoying snake, in human form?" The Primordial Phoenix sounded like she was in disbelief, yet there was a hint of entertainment within her tone, almost as though she was subtly mocking Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sucked her teeth and growled in a cold voice. Hearing your voice makes me want to pluck your feathers. You dare. Primordial Phoenix screamed, causing bursts of flames to erupt from its body like it was an active volcano. Why wouldn't I dare? It won't be my first time after all. A cold smile appeared on Dragon Goddess Yeyou's face. The Primordial Phoenix trembled in anger after hearing such words. It has been 1,000,000 years since we last fought. While you've slept for probably 90% of that time, I've spent countless resources and effort into strengthening myself, so that I would be able to scale you like a fish if I ever encountered you again. Looks like today will be that day. How dare you compare me to a fish? Dragon Goddess Yeyou's eyes began glowing with killing intent, and dragon scales began appearing on her body. Ahem. Tianyi suddenly cleared his throat loudly and spoke, Dragon Goddess, please don't forget why we are here. He then moved to stand between the two and continued speaking. Primordial Phoenix, please calm down. We are not here to fight you. Ha! And who the hell are you? The Primordial Phoenix just noticed Tianyi's presence, as his presence was incomparably smaller than Dragon Goddess Yeyou's presence. My name is Tianyi, and I am but a humble human with the desire to have a word with you. The Primordial Phoenix started glancing back and forth between Tianyi and Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Now this is something else. A divine beast, the Dragon Goddess, no less, traveling the starry sky with a human being. This is a sight that I never thought I'd ever witness. The Primordial Phoenix muttered in an intrigued voice before fixing her gaze on Dragon Goddess Yeyou. When did you become so close with a human, Dragon Goddess, who has never given them any attention since the beginning of time? Don't tell me. Are you mating with this human as well? You will pay for disrespecting me, Primordial Phoenix. Dragon Goddess Yeyou returned to her original form the following moment, her eyes spewing heavenly fire and the intent to fight. Tianyi rubbed his eyes and released a stressed sigh. Dragon Princess, if you calm down, I will spar with you after this is over. Tianyi said to her. Dragon Goddess Yeyou's tail visibly twitched after hearing such words. Although it has been less than 100 years since they last fought, she has already begun to crave another fight with Tianyi. After spending a few moments controlling her emotions, Dragon Goddess Yeyou returned to her human form and proceeded to close her eyes, meditating in silence. When the Primordial Phoenix saw this, saw how Dragon Goddess Yeyou listened to a human's commands, she was shaken to her core with shock. Who are you? How did you make her listen to you? Besides being known for being a bully, that dragon is also famous for not listening to anyone. And what are your relationships? The Primordial Phoenix looked at Tianyi in a new light. I already told you my identity. As for our relationship, it's complicated, but I guess we're something like traveling partners. The Primordial Phoenix sucked in a long and deep breath after hearing such a thing. And you convinced her to be your traveling partner? How? The Primordial Phoenix clearly couldn't believe it. Well, we had a conversation and a little spar. It took 200 years and I nearly died, but it worked out somehow. The Primordial Phoenix was speechless. Once she snapped out of it, she asked, So, what do you want from me? Tianyi smiled, and he proceeded to tell the Primordial Phoenix of his ambitions. A world where beasts and humans can interact with each other without fear, huh? Compared to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, the Primordial Phoenix has more experience with humans, even dealing in business with some of them, so she understood Tianyi's ambitions with more clarity. With that being said, as a divine beast, she naturally saw humans as inferior entities, even if they do benefit her pockets. While I understand your ambitions, and it would benefit my business more if I had more human customers, I cannot see how you will achieve such a thing. Like fire and water, dragons and phoenixes, humans and beasts have fought with each other since the beginning of time. It will take a lot more than just convincing a few strong beasts to change the world. I am aware of that. While that is my ultimate goal, my current goal is simply to create a foundation. It may take several eras before things start to change, but nothing will change if there is no foundation. The Primordial Phoenix didn't say anything and turned to look at Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Since you are following him, I'll take it that you believe he'll be able to achieve such a task. Dragon goddess Yeyou opened her eyes and responded calmly. No, I don't believe he'll be able to do it. The primordial phoenix looked puzzled by her response, and she asked, Then why are you following him? Because it's interesting enough to lessen my boredom. Unbelievable. The primordial phoenix was left speechless by her response. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1224 Madame Feng. Chapter 1224 Madame Feng. 1224 Madame Feng. After snapping out of her daze, Primordial Phoenix returned to focusing on Tianyi, and she spoke. I understand what you are trying to do, but I don't see how it has anything to do with me. What do you want from me? I'd like you to witness my journey with the dragon goddess and others who might join us in the future, Tianyi said. In other words, you want me to become your follower? With this annoying snake by my side the entire time? I refuse. Over my dead body. Primordial Phoenix immediately refused his offer, which didn't surprise him in the slightest. But he didn't give up and continued to convince her. I am not asking you to become my follower. You are free to watch me from a distance or by my side, just like the dragon goddess here. Don't you want to be part of something much bigger than yourself? It could be the start of a new era. One that you had a hand in creating. It'll also benefit your business greatly. I have much better things to do than babysit a human with an impossible ambition. Unlike the dragon goddess, I have a life that's worth something. Primordial Phoenix sneered. A vein appeared on dragon goddess Ye's forehead after hearing the primordial phoenix's insult, but she barely managed to control her emotions. Tianyi became silent for a moment. Perhaps I am approaching her the wrong way. She has a business of her own, and merchants rarely do things that do not benefit them. If you have nothing else to say, I'm out of here. Primordial Phoenix said as she began turning around. Primordial Phoenix, I have an offer for you, Tianyi suddenly said. The Primordial Phoenix halted her movements, but she did not turn back around, only twisting her head slightly. Tianyi proceeded to retrieve an object for his storage ring, and held it in front of him. What's this profound aura? The Primordial Phoenix couldn't help but turn around after sensing a weird aura coming from Tianyi's palms. Her eyes narrowed on the glowing red stone resting on Tianyi's palms. The rock was shaped like an egg, and was only as big as an adult's fist. Despite its unremarkable size, it contained an immense amount of yang qi within. There was so much yang qi condensed within the rock that it looked like there was a sun resting inside the rock, and it was emitting a scorching heat wave that could easily incinerate even an immortal if they got too close without serious preparation. The Primordial Phoenix's eyes widened with shock and disbelief when she finally realized what she was looking at. Is that what I think it is? She stuttered after swallowing nervously. Although she didn't know the glowing egg-like object Tianyi was holding, the dragon goddess' interest was instantly piqued when she saw the Primordial Phoenix's reaction. There were very few treasures in this world that would interest the Primordial Phoenix, much less cause her to salivate. Tianyi smiled and said, I don't know what you think this is, but this is a smoldered phoenix egg that has bathed in intense yang qi for over 1 billion years. Ever since the beginning of the primordial era. As a phoenix, I'm sure you know the value of these things. A 1,000,000-year-old smoldered phoenix egg would send an entire nation into a frenzy. And a 10,000,000-year-old smoldered phoenix egg started a war within the divine heavens not long ago. Over 1 billion years? The primordial phoenix had a frightened expression on her face. Phoenix egg? Does that mean there's a phoenix growing inside? Dragon goddess Yeyou asked out of curiosity. Tianyi shook his head. Although that is what the name suggests, there is no phoenix growing inside. In fact, it has nothing to do with phoenixes. A smoldered phoenix egg is an extremely rare and potent resource for cultivators with a cultivation method that requires yang qi, and phoenixes are inherently made of yang qi, so this would benefit them even more. So it's just a cultivation resource. I was expecting something more exciting since she reacted so intensely. How boring. Dragon Goddess Yeyou shrugged, quickly losing interest. Just a cultivation resource? How dare you utter such nonsense, you uncultured snake. A smoldered phoenix egg to phoenixes is as important as your blood essence is to a dragon with a common bloodline. At my cultivation, only something like a smoldered phoenix egg could benefit me. And it's not just a small amount. Hell, I might even be able to improve my bloodline with it. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned upon hearing her last words. Your bloodline is already the purest it can be. How could it possibly get any purer? That's just how potent a smoldered phoenix egg is. And this is the first time I have seen one that has aged over 1 billion years. I consumed one that was 250 million years ago, about 100 million years ago, and it increased my strength by leaps and bounds. I can only imagine what will happen if I consume one that is 4 times older. The primordial phoenix was essentially drooling at this point. Primordial phoenix, here is my offer. I want you to follow me for 100,000 years. If I am unable to achieve my ambitions within that amount of time, I will give you this smoldered phoenix egg as compensation. What do you say? Tian-E said as he held the egg out in a tempting manner. Follow you for 100,000 years? Is that all I have to do? The primordial phoenix was in disbelief, not because it was an immensely difficult task, but because it was immensely easy. In the gaze of her eternal eyes, the span of 100,000 years would pass as but a fleeting breath, scarcely distinguishable from a mere moment in the fleeting perception of mortal beings. Hell, Dragon Goddess Yeyou's naps lasted longer than that. Indeed, you only need to follow me. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to, and you are free to leave whenever you wish. You have a deal. The primordial phoenix immediately responded without a hint of hesitation in her tone. Seriously? Dragon Goddess Yeyou was left speechless by her quick change in attitude. The following moment, the primordial phoenix's fiery body began shrinking until it was shaped like a human. With flaming red hair and a pair of golden eyes, the primordial phoenix transformed into a peerless beauty that rivaled Dragon Goddess Yeyou, but with a unique aura and charm of her own. My human name is Feng, but you may call me Madame Feng. C1215 Eater of Stars. Chapter 1225 Eater of Stars. 1225 Eater of Stars. You know, you basically got bought out by him. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said to Feng shortly afterward. So what? I will gladly sell myself out for 1 billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg. You may not understand its importance to me right now, but you will in 100,000 years when I become so strong that even you cannot touch me. Feng sneered. Oh, so you think you'll be stronger than me after eating that egg? I cannot wait to see your defeated face in 100,000 years. Who said I'm not stronger than you now? The egg will only make the difference that much larger and more obvious. Why don't we put that nonsense to the test right now then? Dragon Goddess Yeyou's eyes flared up with killing intent. It'd be my pleasure. Feng's body began releasing flames. Dragon Goddess, this isn't how you should welcome a new companion. I promised you that I'd spar with you after this, so you can release your anger on me. Tian-E quickly interrupted them, as he did not want to lose one of his traveling companions so soon after getting another one. Forget it, I don't feel like it anymore. If you want to travel with this dumb pigeon, you can do so alone. And without saying anything else, Dragon Goddess Yeyou flew away, disappearing into the starry sky. Feng looked at Tian-E and asked him, why didn't you try to stop her? He smiled and said, because she had every right to leave whenever she pleased, as do you. But I have a feeling that she won't be gone for long, and will eventually return to our side once she calms down. You're a weird human. Unlike any other human that I've come across before, Feng said. I will take that as a compliment. Well, what do you plan on doing now? I'm going to find the divine serpent known as Eater of Stars and have a chat with them, Tian-E said. Eater of Stars? Are you insane? What do you hope to achieve from contacting that monster? Feng had a look of disbelief on her face after hearing such an ominous name. You are familiar with the Eater of Stars? Tian-E looked at her glistening eyes. Of course. She is a notorious entity that does nothing good for the world. An unreasonable monster with an insatiable appetite that constantly consumes stars as though it is always on the verge from dying of hunger. I wouldn't get close to the Eater of Stars if I were you, as you would most likely get eaten by her before you could even say anything. In fact, I don't even know if she has the ability to communicate like I do. The Eater of Stars is female as well? Have you ever spoken with her? Tianyi asked, his gaze filled with interest, almost as if he was a child before an amusement park. No, I have never spoken with her before, nor do I have the desire to do so. I have seen her consume stars from a distance a few times, but that's about it. If you've never spoken to her, then how do you know that she's consuming stars without reason? Because she's been doing it since the Primordial era, and nothing has ever come out of it. Fascinating. How fascinating. I must speak with the Eater of Stars, and if I am lucky, I might even find out why she is doing what she's been doing for eons. Feng Yuming was speechless. The more she gave him reasons to not approach the Eater of Stars, the more he seemed to be interested. He might actually have a screw loose in his head. She thought to herself, whatever. If he dies, I will just get my hands on the smoldered phoenix egg sooner. Do you know how we can find the Eater of Stars? Tianyi then asked. No, but it shouldn't be too hard to follow her trail, especially considering that she always leaves behind a trail of destruction. All right. Then let's get going. Thus, Tianyi and Feng Yuming began their journey in search of the Eater of Stars. Just like how he found Feng Yuming, Tianyi would speak to everyone that crossed his path in the starry sky. And in the blink of an eye, 1,000 years passed. So that's the Eater of Stars, huh? She's definitely not an ordinary divine beast. Tianyi mumbled in a dazed voice as he watched a massive white, snake-like figure in the distance swallowing stars with a single bite, his gaze filled with fascination. The way it consumes the stars without hesitation makes me shudder no matter how many times I see it. Feng Yuming sighed. Tianyi became silent. What's wrong? Are you having second thoughts? Feng Yuming asked him with a teasing smile. He shook his head and sighed. I don't know how to say this, but she appears to be in profound anguish. Anguish? The Eater of Stars? Feng Yuming chuckled at such words. I doubt she even has any emotions, much less anguish. Even if she does have emotions, what could she possibly be anguished about? The stars that she consumes endlessly? The mess she has made in the starry sky? We may never know if we don't try to understand her. Good luck with that. Feng Yuming shrugged. I will. You can stay here while I try to speak with her. And without hesitation, Tianyi began flying towards the monstrous being in the distance. Feng Yuming held herself back from trying to convince him to stop, as she had failed for the past 1,000 years. Nothing I say will change his mind now. She sighed inwardly. She then turned to look in a certain direction and smirked. When are you going to stop watching us from the shadows like a stalker? A moment later, Dragon Goddess Ye's figure appeared before Feng Yuming. How long have you known? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked with a deep frown. Whenever you first realized that we were searching for the Eater of Stars, I guess. Even though it was just for a brief moment, and you quickly hid your presence again. It was so obvious that I almost died from second-hand embarrassment. Dragon Goddess Ye's face flushed with redness after hearing such words. To think you'd be worried enough to let your guard down. Is the human that important to you? You wouldn't understand it even if I told you. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered. Then are you going to stop him? He's essentially walking straight into his own graveyard right now. After a moment of silence, Dragon Goddess Yeyou spoke. You've been with him for 1,000 years now, yet you don't seem to know anything about him. You are just as dumb as I thought. What the hell is that supposed to mean? The Eater of Stars may have immense prowess, but it only knows how to eat. You won't be threatened by something like that. You sure have a lot of confidence in him. You would too if you ever fought him. Feng Yuming turned silent after that, as she was mainly focused on Tianyi, who was just a moment away from reaching the Eater of Stars. C1226, A Waste of Talents. Chapter 1226 A Waste of Talents 1226 A Waste of Talents As Tian-Yi approached the Eater of Stars, he could feel its immense and uncontrolled pressure trying to keep him away. The pressure was tyrannical, strong enough to crush immortals and shatter stars. However, even that was not enough to keep Tian-Yi away. Covered in a sharp aura that seemed to slice apart even the void itself, Tian-Yi continued to slowly close their distance. It doesn't make any noises even as it consumes the stars, almost as if there is a black hole inside its mouth that silently swallows everything. How interesting. A smile appeared on Tian-Yi's face, and it grew wider as he inspected the Eater of Stars with great interest. The Eater of Stars was as long and massive as Dragon Goddess Yeyou in her dragon form, and it was covered in smooth white scales from head to tail, making her appearance very distinctive within the void. Her white scales shone profoundly, like pearls under light, and even the void that naturally consumes light cannot seem to drown out its brilliance. Her head was round and cute, resembling that of a snake, and on it were two large void-like eyes that did not have the slightest glow within, almost like the eyes of the dead, yet she was very much alive. Slight above her eyes and at the center of her smooth forehead was a distinctive red symbol, its significance yet to be known. When Tian-Yi looked into her dead eyes, he could only see anguish and frustration. It was so clear to him that it was as though the Eater of Stars was personally speaking to him. Once he was close enough to the Eater of Stars, Tian-Yi took a deep breath before speaking in a loud voice. "Eater of Stars, can I have a moment of your time?" Spiritual energy carried his voice throughout the starry sky, allowing it to spread within the void and reach the Eater of Stars. However, the Eater of Stars did not have the slightest reaction, almost as though it couldn't hear him. Tian-Yi took another deep breath and called for her again. "Eater of Stars, I can tell that you're in pain. Is there anything that I can do to help?" The Eater of Stars suddenly trembled, and she began to come to a slow halt for the first time in countless years. It turned to look at him and spoke through divine sense. "Pain. Don't speak as though you know anything human." The Eater of Stars opened her mouth and began moving toward Tian-Yi with the intention of consuming him. "You're right. I don't know anything. However, I want to know. I want to understand you. Can you tell me what is bothering you?" Tian-Yi calmly stood there as the Eater of Stars moved closer at a rapid rate. "Even if you knew, there's nothing you or anyone in this universe could do about it. Now disappear." As the Eater of Stars tried to swallow him, a profound light flickered within Tian-Yi's gaze, and his body emitted a divine aura. When the Eater of Stars sensed his divine aura, she instinctively turned away from Tian-Yi, avoiding him. "You're annoying. Die already." Although the Eater of Stars decided to not consume him, she still wanted to kill him for disturbing her. As she opened her mouth again, Tian-Yi could see a white glow deep inside her mouth that grew at a rapid rate. Before he knew it, he was engulfed by white flames that quickly tore away his spiritual energy. This flame, it's not burning my spiritual energy, but consuming it and using it to grow stronger? Tian-Yi was astonished by the white flame's unique properties. Scatter. With a flick of his sleeves, all of the white flames around him blew away, but they continued to burn in the void. "I'm guessing you're the type that only listens after a fight, almost like someone else that I know." Despite being attacked twice already, Tian-Yi was not angry in the slightest. "It's been a while since I stretched my limbs too. Let's enjoy this for a while, shall we?" Thus Tian-Yi and the Eater of Stars began their battle. The Eater of Stars would throw all sorts of flame techniques at Tian-Yi, quickly filling the void with her seemingly eternal flames that refused to die out even many years later, hovering in the void like orbs of light. From a distance, her white flames may even appear as stars. Che. Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly sucked her teeth when she saw Tian-Yi fighting the Eater of Stars, seemingly bothered by something. Feng noticed this and asked her, "What's wrong?" "He's grown so much stronger since our last fight, yet he's barely cultivated in the past 1,000 years. How is that possible? Where does his power come from?" Feng raised an eyebrow and said, "While it's true that he's barely cultivated during our search for the Eater of Stars, I cannot say anything about his growth since I never fought him before." Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly shivered from excitement. and a wide smile appeared on her face unknowingly. If he's this strong after 1,000 years without cultivation, can you imagine what he could achieve if he focused on cultivation for 1,000 years? Dragon Goddess Yeyou mumbled in a dazed voice. If he's truly as talented as you are saying, he's definitely wasting his talents chasing after divine beasts. Feng Yiming said. Indeed, what a waste of talents, Feng Yiming then said. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but he seems to have a fascination with beasts, perhaps even an obsession. I noticed. He's always trying to learn more about dragons during our travels. I think he's just genuinely curious about beasts in general. There are probably countless humans who are constantly wondering about us, but they don't have the courage or strength to approach us, unlike this weirdo. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said with a slight smile on her face. You really do like him, don't you? Feng Yiming chuckled with a smirk. Shut your beak, dumb pigeon. Dragon Goddess Yeyou glared at her. You should keep your eyes on him. It'd be a pity if he dies to the Eater of Stars after all. Feng Yiming sneered. C1227 Insatiable Hunger. Chapter 1227 Insatiable Hunger. 1227 Insatiable Hunger. Why? Why won't you die? The Eater of Stars grew increasingly frustrated when she could not seem to kill Tian-Yi despite putting in serious effort. You seem to be in a hurry to kill me. Why? Aren't you having fun? Let's keep this up for another 100 years at the very least, Eater of Stars. Tian-Yi laughed out loud. 100 years? I don't have that kind of time to play with you. Eater of Stars roared in a furious voice. No time? That's one of the silliest things an immortal entity such as yourself could say, since time is all we have. You have no idea. Then why don't you educate me? Who knows? Maybe I might even lower my guard, as I am easily distracted. The Eater of Stars frowned at his obvious provocation. But she didn't seem to have any other choice, as it might really take her 100 years if not more to deal with him if they continued at this rate. Several years have gone by since the beginning of their conflict, and the Eater of Stars could feel its relentless hunger intensifying within, slowly driving her toward a state of madness. If she doesn't deal with Tian-Yi quickly, and continues to consume stars, she will be tormented by her insatiable hunger. Eventually, the Eater of Stars began speaking in a reluctant tone. Can you imagine the relentless ache of perpetual hunger, an insatiable yearning that refuses to subdue no matter the quantity consumed? Throughout the expanse of my existence since the Primordial era, I have remained a stranger to the sensation of a contented stomach. Countless stars have succumbed to my insatiable appetite, yet I can only keep my hunger barely satisfied enough to where it won't drive me completely mad. I have traveled the starry sky for millions of years in search of something that could satisfy my hunger, but to no avail. I have dried out rivers of celestial water, consumed all sorts of treasures. There is almost nothing in this world that I haven't consumed, yet my hunger remains unsatisfied. I want to stop and rest, but I fear that my hunger will get out of control if I sleep. If I can even sleep properly with this constant hunger. That's right. I have never even had a proper sleep. The only thing I can do is continue moving and consuming everything in my path. Tian-Yi was left speechless by the Eater of Stars situation. Even Feng Yiming and the Dragon Goddess were baffled by it. They always thought that the Eater of Stars was acting out of instinct and had no reason for its actions, that it was a natural calamity without emotions or thoughts. Neither of them could have anticipated this sort of truth, and they couldn't help but pity the Eater of Stars. I understand now. So that is the source of your anguish. What a terrible way of life. And to think that you've been living like this since the Primordial era. Tian-Yi was not prepared to learn such a truth, and did not know how to respond or react. While Tian-Yi was deep in his thoughts, the Eater of Stars saw this as a chance to put an end to their farce and attacked without any warning. Wake up, you idiot! Dragon Goddess Ye's voice suddenly rippled in the starry sky, snapping Tian-Yi out of his daze. But it was too late, and the Eater of Stars landed a direct hit on Tian-Yi the following moment, sending him flying. Blood gushed from Tian-Yi's body, leaving behind a long trail of blood that hovered in the starry sky. You idiot! Are you still alive? Dragon Goddess Yeyou immediately rushed to his side to assess his condition. A slight smile appeared on Tianyi's face as he muttered in a weak voice. Don't worry, I won't die before I beat you. How dare you say such a thing when you cannot even defeat some stupid snake? Do you have no shame? Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed. Meanwhile, the Eater of Stars proceeded to fly towards them with her mouth wide open, seemingly trying to consume them together. How dare a mere snake even think about consuming a dragon? Courting death. Dragon Goddess Yeyou narrowed her eyes at the Eater of Stars as scales began appearing on her body. Please wait, Dragon Goddess. Tianyi quickly grabbed her arm. I am not out of the fight just yet. After adjusting his posture, Tianyi confronted the incoming Eater of Stars with a wide smile on his face. Unbeknownst to him, his body suddenly started emitting a golden aura that gave off an unfathomable feeling. When Dragon Goddess Yeyou detected the palpable presence of his aura, an inexplicable thrill coursed through her entire being, setting her body astir with an intense longing for combat, and igniting her blood with an irresistible urge to engage. The Eater of Stars, too, discerned the subtle shift in his aura, further intensifying her agitation. Her primal instincts screamed that unless she swiftly vanquished him, the window of opportunity to secure victory would close inexorably. As the Eater of Stars closed in with her mouth wide open, the trail of blood left behind by Tianyi entered her mouth. While the amount of blood left behind by Tianyi was akin to a single grain of sand to the Eater of Stars, it was a substantial amount of blood to lose for a human. When the Eater of Stars tasted Tianyi's blood, its massive body shivered for a brief second before freezing like an ice statue. Her void-like eyes began to change as the light slowly returned to them. Why did you stop, Eater of Stars? I am just getting started. Tianyi spread his arms and beckoned her in a provoking manner. However, the Eater of Stars completely ignored him as she remained hovering there with a look of disbelief on her face. Eventually, she spoke in a low voice. What are you? Tianyi did not understand her question, and could only look at her with a raised eyebrow. Although he didn't understand her question, he could tell that something had changed for the Eater of Stars, and when he looked into her eyes, he could see a hint of hope within. C1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence. Chapter 1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence. 1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence. What am I, you ask? Human, I suppose. Tianyi eventually responded to the Eater of Stars question, even though he had a feeling that it wasn't what she wanted to hear. Why do you ask? He then asked. After a moment of silence, the Eater of Stars responded. Amongst the countless things I've consumed throughout the years, very few things interest my taste buds. However, your blood. When I consumed your blood, it excited my taste buds in a way that I've never experienced before, and even though the amount of blood I've consumed is insignificant, even neglectable, it's managed to satisfy my hunger significantly. I could consume 100 stars, yet it would not satisfy my hunger the way your blood just did. The Eater of Stars proceeded to consume the remaining blood that was scattered in the starry sky, leaving not even a single drop of blood behind. And her body would tremble with excitement with every drop of blood. Once she finished cleaning the starry sky of Tianyi's blood, she released a deafening roar that shook the starry sky. My blood satisfies your insatiable hunger? Why? Tianyi mumbled out loud after learning of this information. I don't know, it just does. The Eater of Stars replied. Silence filled the place for the next several moments until Tianyi had an idea. Eater of Stars, I have an offer for you. I am listening. For the first time in history, the Eater of Stars was being patient and willing to listen to a human being. You see, I have an ambition. Tianyi proceeded to tell the Eater of Stars his ambitions. If I have someone like you around me in my journey, it will definitely help speed up my goals. In exchange for your company, I am willing to offer you my blood to feed your hunger. Of course, I won't make you do anything that you don't want to, and you can leave at any time. The Eater of Stars closed her eyes to ponder in silence. A few moments later, her massive body began to shrink, progressively shrinking faster with every passing second. until she was the size of an ordinary snake. I shall follow you until the end of time, Master, the Eater of Stars said. Master? Tianyi raised an eyebrow and said, I'm not asking you to be my servant, you know. I am aware. This is my choice. You really don't mind. I don't. In the realm of beasts, yielding to a human as their master equated to a profound surrender, a relinquishing of their very essence, a choice that would forever brand them with ridicule among their fellow creatures. However, the Eater of Stars was no mere ordinary beast. She was a divine beast with significance equal to that of dragon goddess Yeyou and the primordial phoenix. Despite that, she still decided to accept Tianyi as a master. In the eyes of the Eater of Stars, such considerations held no sway over her. To her, the paramount imperative was the satisfaction of her insatiable hunger, rendering all other concerns inconsequential. In this singular moment, an extraordinary occurrence had transpired. A divine beast, for the first time in history, had chosen to acknowledge a human as its master. Furthermore, this wasn't just any divine beast. It was the Eater of Stars, a notorious entity that had sown terror across the expanse of the divine heavens, a veritable force of nature responsible for the annihilation of countless stars. So, do you have another name besides Eater of Stars? I do not. You may give me a name if you wish. I'll need some time to think about it. Anyways, here. Tianyi suddenly slashed his palm with his sword and offered it to her. Eater of Stars immediately rushed at it like a starving beast and immediately began consuming it. While changing her size won't change her appetite, she could perceive her hunger gradually assuaging as she imbibed his blood. Several minutes later, in a moment unprecedented in her existence, the Eater of Stars encountered the sensation of satiety, discovering what it meant to be free from the ceaseless grip of hunger. It was also at this moment that she knew that she had made the right choice by following Tianyi. Eater of Stars wanted this moment to last forever, to be able to feast on Tianyi's blood endlessly, but she knew that wouldn't be possible if she wanted to preserve his blood for longer. Thank you, Master, Eater of Stars muttered after releasing a satisfied sigh, her stomach feeling better and fuller than ever. Is this your first time tasting human blood? Tianyi asked her. No. I have tasted human blood before, but they all tasted like dirt water. Tianyi sighed in relief after hearing this, as he feared for a moment that only human blood could satisfy her hunger. So what does my blood taste like? He asked out of curiosity. I don't know how to describe it, but it's delicious, unlike anything I have tasted before, and it makes my taste buds tremble with delight. If I am only allowed to eat this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't mind it at all. Is that so? Anyways, let's go meet my other companions, Tianyi then said. Eater of Stars nodded. Suddenly, a powerful presence appeared behind Tianyi. When he turned around, he saw dragon goddess Yeyou with a somewhat weird look on her face, and she appeared to be panting a bit. Dragon goddess? Are you okay? Why do you seem a bit tired? Tianyi raised his eyebrows at her. I tried, but I cannot hold it in any longer. Tianyi, fight me now, she said while her aura skyrocketed. Ha, right now? Tianyi was baffled. Had just finished fighting with the Eater of Stars, and he even donated a good amount of his blood to her afterward. He was definitely in no condition to fight dragon goddess Yeyou. Why don't we do this another time, when I am healed? I'm sure you don't want to fight an injured person as well. Bullshit. You'll be fine if you use that golden aura technique. Why didn't you use that technique when you fought me before? Are you mocking me? Dragon goddess Yeyou roared in a frustrated manner. Golden aura technique? What are you talking about? Tianyi responded with a dumbfounded expression. C1229A Plan to Change the World. Chapter 1229A Plan to Change the World. 1229A Plan to Change the World. Are you genuinely feigning ignorance with me? I witnessed you harnessing it mere moments ago. Your body was enveloped in a resplendent golden aura. It emanated an incomprehensible and overwhelming pressure that I had never experienced before. Just recalling it makes my blood boil. Dragon goddess Yeyou spoke with an angry expression on her face, thinking that he was messing with her. However, Tianyi's puzzled expression remained on his face as he spoke. I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. Golden aura? I don't even have a technique like that. Then what was that golden aura? How did you do it? Tianyi shook his head. Are you sure you saw it? Dragon goddess Yeyou began doubting whether she actually saw it. She turned to look at Feng, who was quickly approaching them, and asked her, Hey, you also saw that golden aura around him right after he was nearly beaten to death, right? Feng did not immediately respond, and when she did, she responded with a smirk on her face. I didn't see anything. You must have hallucinated or something. Dragon goddess Yeyou clenched her fists and gritted her teeth, her eyes radiating with killing intent. Feng sucked her teeth and quickly added, Just joking. She turned to look at Tianyi and continued, She's not lying. There was a golden aura around you just now. I've never felt anything so oppressive before. Tianyi fell silent after hearing this, but he had zero idea what caused the golden aura to show up. Now that I think about it, I felt oddly energized for a brief moment, like I was invincible. Unfortunately, I don't know what caused it, nor can I replicate it. Dragon goddess Yeyou began to ponder deeply. A moment later, she spoke with a serious expression on her face. It appeared shortly after you were nearly beaten to death, so if you experience another near-death situation, it might show up again. I'll help you. Whoa. Hold it. Tianyi immediately distanced himself when Dragon Goddess Yeyou started stretching her limbs. I barely have enough energy to stay awake, and you want to beat me? I will really die. Aren't you always so confident in yourself? You'll be fine. Dragon Goddess Yeyou seemed to have no desire to back down and slowly approached Tianyi. Seeing this, the Eater of Stars moved to stand in front of Tianyi. I won't let you hurt him. Eater of Stars glared at Dragon Goddess Yeyou sternly. You think you have what it takes to stop me? While you may have more raw strength than me, you don't know how to properly use it. You don't even know how to fight properly, and I doubt you know any real techniques. Randomly breathing fire doesn't count either. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered. Calm down, both of you. Dragon Goddess, I just want to rest for now. After that, we can figure out the whole golden aura business together, and then I will spar with you. Okay? Fine. She reluctantly agreed. Good, then allow me to introduce you to our new member, Eater of Stars. Tianyi said. Eater of Stars, these two are my traveling companions. The spirited one is Dragon Goddess Yeyou, and the other is Primordial Phoenix, also known as Feng. And this is Eater of Stars. I am still trying to think of a name for her, so you guys can call her that for now. Can you turn into a human? Feng suddenly asked. I cannot, or more precisely, I don't know how to. Eater of Stars shook her head. Don't worry, I'm sure they will teach you, Tianyi said. After their short introduction, Tianyi brought everyone to the closest uninhabited star to recover his injuries. So, who do you plan on visiting next? Feng asked him. Honestly, I don't know. And while it will benefit to have more companions, I think we can start changing the world with just the four of us for now, Tianyi said. And how do you plan on changing the world? We can start by letting the world know of our presence. A human traveling the world and doing things with 3 divine beasts by his side. It will surely stir both the human world and the beast world. Seriously? That's the best plan you can come up with after 1,000 years? Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless. Then do you have any suggestions? Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless, as she had no idea where to even begin. As simple as it may seem, I think your plan will work pretty well. Feng suddenly spoke up. Your goal is to create a world where humans and beasts can work together, right? We can commence by demonstrating to the world the very feasibility of such a vision, since most believe it to be impossible. By showcasing our partnership, we can enlighten humanity and beasts to the possibility of collaboration between our 2 worlds. Then it's decided. Tianyi had an eager smile on his face. We can start by dealing with issues that normal people or beasts cannot handle by themselves. Do you guys know of anything like that happening within the divine heavens at this moment? Well, I've spent the past 1,000 years traveling the starry sky with you, so my knowledge is to the extent of yours. Feng Yuming shrugged. I don't know either. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said in a stiff voice, as she didn't want to admit that she had been following them for the same amount of time. That's fine. We can look into it once we return to the divine heavens, Tianyi said. Before that, I have something to say, Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly said. What is it? Shouldn't you spend some time improving your cultivation first? While you are already pretty strong, you could be much, much stronger if you focused on cultivation for some time. After all, you are still in the prime age for that. It would be a waste of your talents if you start too late. Is that really necessary? Sounds like a hassle, and I'd rather spend that time to work on my goals. Tianyi sighed. Of course. Beasts are naturally attracted to the strong, so the stronger you are, the more likely they will listen to you. If you want a world where beasts respect humans, you need to show them something worthy of respect because as of now, the majority of beasts do not respect humans in the slightest. Makes sense. Alright, I'll dedicate some time to cultivation every once in a while. Tianyi nonchalantly nodded. I've long been aware of his immense talent, evident when he faced me and survived at an age not even surpassing 1,000 years. Now, I entertain the notion that he might have scarcely trained before then. Is it conceivable that he is truly a mere human? Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed inwardly. I've been wondering, how old are you? Feng Yuming suddenly asked Tianyi. A little over 2,000 years old. Tianyi calmly responded. 2,000 years old. Impossible. Feng Yuming did not dare to believe him. It's true. He wasn't even 1,000 years old when he fought with me. Dragon Goddess Yeyou confirmed. Unbelievable. Feng Yuming muttered in disbelief. C1230 Golden Aura. Chapter 1230 Golden Aura. 1230 Golden Aura. Several days later, after Tianyi recovered from his injuries, he began looking into the golden aura with the others. The first thing they did was beat Tianyi until he was near death, since that was what triggered it in the first place. Go easy on me, Tianyi said with a stiff smile. Sure. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said in a nonchalant manner. Clearly, she did not plan on going easy on him. But before they could even begin, Tianyi had to convince Eater of Stars, whom he named Xingrui, to not attack Dragon Goddess Yeyou when she beats him, as she was overly protective of him. After all, if he were to meet his demise, her insatiable hunger would undoubtedly resurface. The prospect of reverting to such a state, after tasting the satisfaction of a full stomach, filled her with a profound dread. It was a fate she was determined to evade at any expense. Eventually, their experiment began with Dragon Goddess Yeyou beating Tianyi until his entire body was soaked in blood. Meanwhile, Feng Yuming watched with great entertainment from a distance. As for Xingrui, she cleaned up the blood on the ground that was spewed by Tianyi. Do you feel any different? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked Tianyi as he lay on the ground in a near-death state. Besides immense pain all over my body? Nope, he replied in a low voice. You probably aren't near death enough. Oh, keep on going then. Why? Thus, Dragon Goddess Yeyou proceeded to continue the beating until he was truly on the verge of death. How about now? Tianyi couldn't even respond to her in his current state. Iche. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed. Then she proceeded to feed some medicine to him. Within minutes, Tianyi fully healed from his near-death state. Alright, let's do it again, Dragon Goddess Yeyou said afterward, sounding oddly eager to beat him. I don't think physically torturing myself will do any good. According to you, the golden aura occurred during my fight with Xingrui. Perhaps I need an opponent, and to be engaged in a real fight. Tianyi quickly stopped her. That sounds reasonable. And since your opponent at that time was Xingrui, you should fight with her again. However, Xingrui immediately refused. I will not partake in hurting master no matter what. How about I do it? Feng Yuming suddenly volunteered herself. You? Dragon Goddess Yeyou raised her eyebrows. She nodded and explained. I have been wondering about his prowess since I learned that Het survived a fight with you 1,000 years ago. I want to see for myself his talents. Let's do it then. Tianyi agreed to spar with Feng Yuming. Sometime later, Tianyi and Feng Yiming went back into the starry sky and started fighting each other. Much like Xingrui, Feng Yiming harnessed the formidable power of flames. However, in stark contrast to Xingrui, Feng Yiming exhibited flawless mastery over her fiery abilities, even boasting a vast repertoire of hundreds of unique techniques at her disposal. For the first several months, Feng Yiming faced Tianyi while in her human form, as she didn't really take the fight seriously. However, she eventually transformed back into a phoenix and started fighting him for real, with the intention of killing him. Their battle raged with an intensity beyond measure, and the very expanse of the starry sky was ablaze with the searing brilliance of Feng Yiming's phoenix flames. Her flames surged with such blistering heat that they tore through Tianyi's spiritual energy, reduced his clothing to ashes, and roasted his skin with relentless ferocity. Although it wasn't enough to endanger his life, it did drain his stamina and strength constantly and quickly. That dumb pigeon has grown a lot stronger since our fight. Dragon goddess Yeyou mumbled to herself as she watched them fight. Of course, she's still miles away from my level. Though Feng Yiming may be weaker than Dragon goddess Yeyou when it comes to raw prowess, her undying and relentless flames were incredibly annoying and difficult to deal with, especially for a tiny human like Tianyi. After enduring what felt like an eternity in the deepest abyss of torment, and bearing the ceaseless scorching agony, Tianyi found himself approaching his limits. As he slowly approached his death, Tianyi subconsciously started recalling everything he felt during his fight with Xingrui. In the very moment when he teetered on the brink of being consumed by the relentless phoenix flames, an explosive surge of energy surged forth from the innermost depths of his being, before a resplendent golden aura emerged around his body. The atmosphere underwent an instantaneous transformation the very second the golden aura materialized, and Dragon Goddess Ye's face lit up like a lamp with an expansive smile on it, as she detected the immeasurable might it exuded. It's here. She did not hesitate to rush into the starry sky and towards Tianyi's location. Meanwhile, Tianyi faced Feng Yiming with his newfound strength. So this is the golden aura. He looked at his glowing hands with great interest. Not only was his depleted energy quickly being restored, he felt a divine power that did not exist moments before now in the grasp of his own hands. After taking a brief moment to admire his new strength, Tianyi turned to look at Feng Yiming, who uncontrollably trembled in fear when she felt his gaze on her. As Tianyi steadily advanced toward her, Feng Yiming fell into a trance, unleashing a barrage of techniques upon him with an intensity that suggested her very existence hinged upon their success. Her flames quickly engulfed Tianyi's figure. Despite that, Feng Yiming's anxiety only intensified, as she could tell that her flames were unable to touch Tianyi and were merely dancing around him, almost as though the flames had their own consciousness and were consciously avoiding Tianyi. The following moment, with a nonchalant sweep of his arm, every ember surrounding Tianyi dispersed like mere insects in his presence. Seeing this, Feng Yiming did not hesitate to return to her human form. I surrender. You win. Feng Yiming sighed out loud. Oh. When Feng Yiming surrendered her will to fight, so did Tianyi, and the golden aura around him quickly started diminishing. However, just as it was on the verge of disappearing, the golden aura suddenly surged to life once more. Simultaneously, Tianyi was turning around to confront the encroaching dragon goddess Yeyou, who was enveloped in her own aura that resonated with an unquenchable thirst for battle. C1231 Unfathomable Talents. Chapter 1231 Unfathomable Talents. 1231 Unfathomable Talents. I have been waiting for this moment for over 1,000 years, Tianyi. Dragon goddess Yeyou roared with a delighted smile on her face as she flew towards Tianyi like an unstoppable meteor. Tianyi confronted her with a smile on his face as well. Upon their collision, their intertwined spiritual energies and auras converged, birthing a cataclysmic detonation of such staggering magnitude that it would eclipse even the most potent nuclear forces known to Earth, rendering them insignificant in comparison. The force unleashed by their titanic clash was so overwhelming that had it erupted within the very heart of the divine heavens, it would have engulfed the entire realm, reducing it to mere cosmic dust in an instant. These two crazy fuckers. Are they trying to kill me too? Feng Yeming nearly had a heart attack as she used her fastest movement technique to escape the blast and distance herself from them, barely escaping with the teeth of her skin. If she had been even slightly slower or reacted a second slower, she would have died there and then. This is what I've been yearning for. Finally, a worthy opponent whom I can unleash my full might. Dragon Goddess Ye's demeanor seemed to have veered into madness, consumed entirely by the singular obsession of their confrontation. In fact, she was so absorbed in their fight that she was fighting with the intent to kill Tianyi. As for Tianyi, he too had succumbed to a peculiar trance, his thirst for combat pushed to its utmost limits. Due to the grand impact of their battle, they were immediately noticed by other experts, humans and beasts alike. Holy shit! Isn't that the same human who fought with the dragon goddess a little over 1,000 years ago? Has he returned for a rematch? Impossible. How did he get so strong in so little time? My cultivation barely advanced since then. Many of these individuals were present at their last battle, so they were greatly shocked to see Tianyi fighting dragon goddess Yeyou at her full strength when he was struggling to keep up with her before. Are you sure that's the same human from the Great Enlightenment? Surely, it must be a different person. No, it's definitely the same person. I have no doubt about it. I still remember their fight 1,000 years ago as clear as day. Then he must have consumed some heaven-defying treasures. I don't even know of any treasure that could possibly strengthen someone so fast without any side effects. He must have consumed a whole sea of celestial water or something. There's no way that amount of celestial water even exists. Could this be a second Great Enlightenment? We need to notify the others as soon as possible. The spectators hoped for their fight to last another 200 years, but alas, it ended much sooner than they all had hoped. After just one short year, Dragon Goddess Yeyou eventually defeated Tianyi for a second time. Although she wanted to prolong their fight like last time, she couldn't afford to go easy on him, or she'd end up being the loser. Damn it. I thought I had this one in the bag. Tianyi muttered as he floated in the starry sky without his golden aura. Dragon Goddess Yeyou remained unresponsive, her gaze fixed upon him in a profound silence, her countenance bearing a mysterious and contemplative expression. Eventually, she approached him and asked, "Are you okay?" "My body is screaming in pain, but I won't die," he said with a calm smile. "If you cultivated diligently for another 1,000 years, you might be able to defeat me." "I can't wait." He chuckled. Dragon Goddess Yeyou then turned to look at the spectators and roared at them. "What are you looking at? If you're not going to fight me next, scram." All of the spectators immediately turned tails and fled as their lives depended on it, especially the beasts. "So, do you plan on giving a name to your ridiculous technique?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly asked Tianyi. "I'll think about it once I have full control over it." "Very well. Then we'll schedule our next fight for when you can make it appear as you will." All right. Over the next several years, Tianyi would focus on improving his cultivation, just as Dragon Goddess Yeyou suggested. During this time, besides cultivating, he would also feed Xingrui his blood once every year, which was more than enough to fill her stomach for another year. The rate of his growth is simply terrifying. Not even those with the purest bloodline in the Phoenix clan would be able to match him in terms of cultivation speed. In fact, they might as well be crawling on the floor while he runs. Feng Yeming sighed. She had always regarded herself as a superior being, believing herself peerless. Yet, in the presence of Tianyi and witnessing his unparalleled talents, she found herself humbled and awestruck by his exceptional prowess. Dragon Goddess Yeyou could only silently agree with Feng Yeming. As a divine being and having never lost a single fight before, she was beginning to anticipate losing for the first time to Tianyi. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years have passed. During this time, Xingrui learned how to transform into a human with the help of Feng Yeming. Her human form was incredibly beautiful and surprisingly innocent-looking, like a maiden who never left home. She had long, silky silver hair, black eyes, and snow-white skin. In stark contrast to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, whose presence exuded the divine aura of a goddess, and Feng Yeming, whose aura resonated with the grace of a fairy. Xingrui emitted the distinguished and refined aura of a noble young lady. As for Tianyi, had entered closed cultivation, and he made sure to collect enough blood to feed Xingrui before going into cultivation. When he emerged from his closed cultivation, he almost didn't recognize Xingrui. In fact, he only recognized her because she was feasting on a bottle of his blood when he saw her, which was the only reason that he even realized her identity. C1232 Unexpected Visitor. Chapter 1232 Unexpected Visitor. 1232 Unexpected Visitor. Are you done with your cultivation, master? Xingrui asked him the moment he came out of seclusion. Xingrui? Is that you? Tianyi stared at her with a dumbfounded expression, not daring to believe that the innocent-looking young lady before him was the one known as Eater of Stars despite the overwhelming evidence, such as the bottle of blood in her grasp that he had prepared for her right before he went into seclusion. It is, master. Xingrui calmly nodded for confirmation. Is that so? Tianyi proceeded to look around, expecting to see Dragon Goddess Yeyou or Feng Yeming around. He quickly found Dragon Goddess Yeyou, who appeared to be napping peacefully in the distance. Where is Feng Yeming? He asked Xingrui. Primordial Phoenix mentioned something about a business, and said that she will return soon. That was 50 years ago. I see. Well, she'll return whenever they are ready. How have you been faring, Xingrui? Do you need more blood? Xingrui shook her head. I still have 10 bottles left. They'll last me for another 10 years. Just let me know whenever you need it, Tianyi said with a smile. Now then, what should we do now? He began pondering their next step. Should he continue cultivating until Feng Yeming returns, or should he do something else while waiting for her to return? However, before he could think of something, a voice that he was not familiar with resounded. I have finally found you, my lord. Who's there? Show yourself. Xingrui immediately became defensive. Dragon Goddess Yeyou also woke up from her nap. The following moment, an old man emitting an ominous aura appeared out of thin air before Tianyi and Xingrui. There's no need to be alert. I am not your enemy, the old man said. Who are you? Tianyi asked him. Despite the pungent stench of blood emanating from the elderly man, Tianyi remained untroubled, as he sensed no imminent threat from the old man's presence. In fact, he could feel unwavering loyalty from the old man for some reason. This old subordinate is called Dong Yi, and I have spent the last 1,000,000 years awaiting your return. My return? What are you talking about? I don't believe we've met before, and I am not even 1,000,000 years old, so how could you be waiting so long for me? You must have gotten the wrong person. Tianyi expressed his doubts. I understand your confusion, and what I am about to tell you will sound crazy, but I am not messing with you. Dong Yi proceeded to tell Tianyi of his true identity and his incarnation as the evil god and the divine paragon. Tianyi listened to the whole story without interrupting, and on his face was a look of disbelief. If I am not mistaken, my lord, you have already been regaining your past memories. Tianyi couldn't rebuke such a claim, as it was true. In fact, he's been seeing these memories even before he met with Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Even if what you say is true, what do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? Those identities died with their body. Tianyi asked him. Nothing at the moment, my lord. I am only here to fulfill my duties as your humble servant. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to use these old bones. Seriously? Seriously. Dong Yi nodded with a serious expression. Then I need some time to digest what I learned today. You may leave for now. Tianyi sighed. As you command. Dong Yi bowed to Tianyi before disappearing like a ghost. Do you believe what he said? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked him. I do. He calmly nodded. Truth be told, I was already aware of my past lives even before he told me. To think you were the evil god's reincarnation. The human world would go into a frenzy if they knew, and they might even hunt you down like some kind of beast. What are you going to do now? No matter what you decide, I will follow you, Xingrui said. Nothing has changed. Evil god or not, I will walk my own path until my dreams are realized. It's as simple as that. With that being said, let's return to the divine heavens and start our plans. Okay. Thus, Tian Yi made his way back to the divine heavens with Xingrui and dragon goddess Yeyou. Feng Yuming would eventually rejoin with them later. Knock knock, Yuan, are you awake? Yuan slowly opened his eyes after hearing Shimei's voice. He went to open the door and greet her. I am. Do you need anything? My mother's wondering if you are ready for your training yet. Shimei said. It's been several days since they dealt with the Azure Dragon clan and the Emerald Dragon family, but it felt much longer for Yuan, who had been engrossed in Dragon Goddess Yi's memories. Please let her know that I am ready, Yuan replied. Okay. Shortly after Shimei left his room, Feng Yuxiang and the others showed up in his room. When Yuan saw Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying standing beside each other, he couldn't help but recall Feng Yuming and Xingrui, and he wondered if they were somehow related. Young master? What's wrong? Feng Yuxiang asked him when she noticed his dazed stare. He smiled and said, I was just remembering something that happened in my past life. Do you know anything about the Primordial Phoenix? Primordial Phoenix? Of course. There is no way a phoenix wouldn't know of her. She's like a god in our race. No, she's practically a god. In fact, she's the sole reason why I became a businesswoman. Why do you ask? Wait. Do you, your incarnation, know the Primordial Phoenix? Feng Yuxiang suddenly became excited. Yuan nodded. Yes, I will tell you more about it later. After I finish my training. Please do. Feng Yuxiang was overflowing with enthusiasm. C1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. Chapter 1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. 1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. Shimei returned to Yuan's room a couple of minutes after she left. Yuan, my mother will be waiting for you in the courtyard, she notified him. All right. Thank you. He proceeded to make his way to the courtyard. Of course, having nothing better to do, Shimei and the others followed him. Once they arrived at the courtyard, they could see Ximingza casually standing on the sparring stage. Welcome, Yuan. I hope you had a good rest. Ximingza greeted him with a charming smile on her beautiful face as he made his way onto the stage. I did. Thank you for taking the time to train me even though you're in the middle of something major. Don't even mention it. We are pretty much finished with the biggest issues and our investigations. In our current state, we need to take things slowly, since we have 2 more cities to deal with, Ximingza said. Anyways, let's talk about your dragon's authority, shall we? Yuan nodded. As my husband had already mentioned, dragon's authority is a superior version of dragon's gaze, allowing you to command the dragon race as long as they have a weaker bloodline than you. With that being said, you're a human without a dragon's bloodline, so I am not exactly sure how things will work out for you, as I have never heard of such a thing before. Though since it worked before, I don't think there'll be any problems for you. And since you clearly haven't mastered the technique, I am going to help you. It's quite simple, really. You will use dragon's authority on me until you have complete control over it. Normally it would require millennials to master such a technique, but knowing your heaven-defying talents, I have confidence that you'll be able to master it within months if not weeks. Any questions? He shook his head. Good. Then you may begin whenever you are ready. Ximingza proceeded to mentally prepare herself for his dragon's authority. Yuan took a deep breath and closed his eyes to recall how he felt when he first used dragon's authority by accident. When he reopened his eyes a few moments later, they gleamed with a profound golden hue, radiating an overwhelming and authoritative aura. The ambience in the vicinity underwent an abrupt transformation, as if a divine presence had descended upon the surroundings. Ximingza's body trembled in awe when she met Yuan's profound gaze. Despite having mentally prepared herself, she still found it difficult to withstand its pressure and allure. This will be good training for me, as well, she thought to herself. As Yuan continued to use dragon's authority on Ximingza, he could feel his mastery over it quickly improve. Ximingza had anticipated that her training with Yuan would span several weeks, if not months. However, by the day's end, Yuan had already achieved a complete mastery of Dragon's authority. Ding. Immortal Monarch's Dominion, Rank, Supreme. Mastery Level 1. Description: a divine technique wielded by the Immortal Monarch, enabling him to exert dominion over any creature upon which his gaze falls. Yuan was taken aback as the notification displayed a technique name different from what he had anticipated. Immortal Monarch's Dominion? What happened to Dragon's authority? Yuan mumbled in a dumbfounded voice. What's the matter? Shimingze asked him when she noticed his weird expression. It's somewhat difficult to put into words, but it appears I haven't been training in Dragon's authority, Yuan admitted with a perplexed tone. What do you mean? Shimingze tilted her head in a puzzled manner. I understand the concept of Dragon's authority, which commands dragons, but do you know of a technique surpassing it? One that exerts dominion over all creatures in the world? Yuan inquired with curiosity. A technique superior to Dragon's authority? Commanding all creatures in the world? Shimingze was speechless. Yuan nodded. I believe my dragon's authority is actually something different, and it allows me to command beasts beyond dragons. Shimingze began pondering with a serious expression on her face. I recall reading a particular scroll in the family library long ago that recounted the tale of a man from ancient times possessing such an ability. The capability to command all the creatures of the world. However, its accuracy is dubious at best. Shimingze looked at Yuan with a nervous face as she inquired. Are you suggesting that your dragon's authority possesses such a remarkable capability? Do you comprehend the weight of the assertion you're making? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm serious. I'm not accusing you of falsehood, Shimingze suddenly added. But if I am to persuade myself that such an ability truly exists, I must witness it firsthand with my own eyes. Yuan smiled. I understand completely and I don't blame you. He proceeded to turn his head to look at Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying, who were sitting not far away from the stage. Feng Yingying, do you mind coming on the stage for a quick experiment? It would be my honor to assist you, young master. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed enthusiastically as she stepped forward toward the stage. I also don't mind, Lan Yingying said as she followed behind Feng Yuxiang. What's happening? Mei was intrigued by the sudden turn of events, and also made her way to the stage, wondering what they were going to do. Once they were on the stage, Yuan asked them, I am going to use Dragon's authority on you two to see if it works on creatures beyond dragons. Do you mind? You can do anything you want to me, young master. Feng Yuxiang responded in a teasing tone. Lan Yingying calmly nodded in silence, agreeing with her. What makes you think it'll work on creatures beyond dragons? Mei asked out of curiosity. Just a hunch. He smiled mysteriously. After giving Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying a moment to prepare themselves, Yuan looked at Feng Yuxiang and asked her, I will start with you. Are you ready? She nodded with a serious expression. I am ready. C1234 A Dangerous Ability. Chapter 1234 A Dangerous Ability. 1234 A Dangerous Ability. After Feng Yuxiang expressed her readiness, Yuan contemplated how he should utilize the Immortal Monarch's dominion on her. Naturally, he recognized the need to issue a command that would compel her to perform an action she would typically avoid or hesitate to undertake. After all, if the command was too easy, it wouldn't really prove to Shimingze his capabilities. Eventually, Yuan thought of something, but before he used Immortal Monarch's dominion on her, he apologized to her first. I would like to apologize in advance. Sorry. Hearing such a thing only made Feng Yuxiang nervous about what he had planned for her. Why, young master, please go easy on me. Without responding to her plea, Yuan activated Immortal Monarch's dominion. Feng Yuxiang's body immediately froze with Yuan glaring at her. I want you to pick your right nose hole with your right pinky and make chicken noises, Yuan commanded her. Feng Yuxiang's eyes widened with shock, as did Lan Yingying and the others there. Shimingze's nerves fluttered, her gaze fixed on Feng Yuxiang, pondering whether she would truly engage in such potentially humiliating tasks. She couldn't help but empathize, imagining herself in Feng Yuxiang's position, dreading the prospect of performing actions so embarrassing that she would rather face death. Why, young master? I know I said that I'd do anything for you, but this is a little too much. Please. I'd rather walk the streets naked. In the midst of her begging, Feng Yuxiang's body started moving on their own accord. All eyes in the vicinity remained transfixed as Feng Yuxiang gingerly inserted her right pinky finger into her right nostril, simultaneously emitting chicken-like clucking noises, creating an absurd spectacle that left the onlookers in stunned amazement. PFTT. Xiaohua nearly burst out laughing after witnessing Feng Yuxiang's humiliating act. You can stop now. Yuan quickly deactivated Immortal Monarch's dominion. Feng Yuxiang had been under the influence of Immortal Monarch's dominion for just 5 seconds. Yet for her, it seemed like an agonizing eternity, more than sufficient to subject her to profound humiliation. Young master. Feng Yuxiang uttered in a low voice as she fell to her knees, looking like she'd just suffered the worst defeat in her life. Sorry again. I needed you to do something you wouldn't normally agree to do. I'll make it up to you. Yuan tried his best to soothe her, but alas, Feng Yuxiang remained kneeling on the floor in silence. Yuan, you're not going to make me do that too, right? Lan Yingying was looking at him with a terrified expression on her face. Yuan turned to look at Shi Mingzi and asked her, do you still need more proof or? No, I am already convinced that it's real. Shi Mingzi quickly shook her head, as she didn't know if she could endure watching another public humiliation. What? That's not fair. Feng Yuxiang suddenly exclaimed. You called for the two of us, so you should test it on her as well. Even if you say that. Yuan didn't know how to respond. It's okay. Lan Yingying suddenly said, she's right. It won't be fair to her if I don't experience it as well. Are you sure? Lan Yingying nodded. Just give me a few more moments to prepare myself. Take as much time as you need. Sometime later, Lan Yingying said, okay, I am ready. Yuan nodded, and he activated Immortal Monarch's dominion on her. I want you to get on the floor and act like you're a worm, in your human form. Lan Yingying subconsciously tried resisting the Immortal Monarch's dominion, but almost as though she had turned into a puppet with strings tied to her body, she lay on the floor and started squirming around like a worm. One could argue that Feng Yuxiang still got the shorter end of the stick, but she seemed satisfied with the results and didn't complain. You can stop now, Yuan said a moment later. However, Lan Yingying did not immediately get off the floor. Instead, she remained lying there with her face kissing the floor, almost as though she was too embarrassed to even show her face. You can be quite cruel if you want to be, Yuan. This was truly unexpected. Shi Mingzi said to him. Yuan could only respond with a stiff smile. A few moments later, Shi Mingzi turned to look at Feng Yuxiang and asked her, can you tell me how it felt? Did you try resisting his command? Feng Yuxiang nodded. I did, but it felt like my body had stopped listening to me. No matter how hard I tried to resist it, I couldn't prevent the humiliation. Indeed. It was like someone else had taken control over my body. It was a more terrifying experience than I expected. Lan Yingying shuddered just recalling it. A dragon's authority that works on all creatures. As powerful as it may sound, it's also an incredibly dangerous ability to have, Yuan. If word gets out that you can command any beast at will, they will hunt you down because you are a threat to their very existence. Shi Mingzi warned him. In the event that a magical beast with the ability to control humans and make them act against their will were to appear, there would be no question that humans would relentlessly pursue and hunt down such a creature. This same logic applied to humans as well. It would be for the best if you kept this ability a secret. Even better if you don't use it at all if you don't need to. Yuan nodded, I agree. I don't enjoy forcing others to do things against their will, too. Sometime later, Shi Mingzi said to Yuan, I am going to make a trip to the family library to see if I can learn more about your ability. In the meantime, you can go back to rest. I understand. Shi Mingzi left the scene shortly after. Young master, you owe us for today, Feng Yuxiang said to him as they returned to their rooms. I know. C1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. Chapter 1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. 1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. After returning to his room with Xiaohua and the others, Yuan asked Feng Yuxiang, "Can you tell me what you know about the Primordial Phoenix? After that, I'll tell you about what I know." Feng Yuxiang nodded. Although the Primordial Phoenix wasn't the first phoenix in existence, she somehow managed to surpass the first phoenix's bloodline, which was thought to be impossible. She's also done a lot for the phoenix race, such as giving birth to many phoenixes with a superior bloodline. She gave birth? Yuan couldn't help but stop her after hearing this information. Feng Yuxiang chuckled and said, "Not literally. Just like how dragons can improve their bloodlines by absorbing a superior bloodline, the primordial phoenix shared her bloodline with many phoenix families, hence giving birth. If it weren't for her, the phoenix race wouldn't have as many royal families in this era and lag behind the dragons. Due to her contributions, the phoenix race flourished and became established as a top 3 global power in our world. Hence her importance to the phoenix race." "I see," Yuan mumbled as he digested the information. "Now tell me about your experience with the primordial phoenix," Feng Yuxiang urged. With a serene smile, Yuan began to reminisce, retracing the memories he shared with the primordial phoenix, recounting their initial encounter and the extraordinary adventure that spanned well over 100,000 years, even though their deal had originally been set for just that duration. When Yuan mentioned the smoldered phoenix egg, Feng Yuxiang stopped him and exclaimed in shock, "A billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg? That's insane. Wait a moment. If it's a billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg, then it's possible. It might be the very reason the primordial phoenix managed to transcend the bloodline of the first phoenix." Feng Yuxiang had this realization. To think that the young master, your incarnation, played a pivotal role in our history. I dare say the phoenix race might find it hard to accept that a human was the catalyst for their flourishing. I suppose we can't be certain that the smoldered phoenix egg is the definitive cause behind the evolution of the primordial phoenix's bloodline, Yuan mused. "No, it's almost certain that's the cause," Feng Yuxiang responded confidently. "A mere 10,000-year-old smoldered phoenix egg would incite a war among the phoenix race in our present era. I can scarcely fathom the potency of a billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg. Nothing is more effective than the smoldered phoenix egg when it comes to improving a phoenix's bloodline. Anyways, tell me more about the primordial phoenix herself. Did she have any hobbies? What did she like to eat? I want the personal details." Yuan nodded and continued to recall dragon goddess Yu's memories of Feng Yumming. Meanwhile, on the other side of the palace, inside Shi Mingze and Shi Shengmo's room. "How was your training with Yuan today?" Shi Shengmo asked her when she returned late at night. "You won't believe me even if I told you." She shrugged. "Try me." She sighed deeply before speaking. Not only did he achieve mastery over Dragon's authority in just one day, but it appears that his Dragon's authority was an entirely different power altogether. "Huh? What do you mean by a different power? It's not Dragon's authority?" Shi Shengmo raised an eyebrow. "No, it's not. In fact, it's even stronger than Dragon's authority, incomparably stronger. What could possibly be stronger than Dragon's authority?" Shi Shengmo frowned. "I don't have a name for it. But if I were to give it one, it'd be perfect authority, as he has the ability to command not only dragons but other beasts as well." "What?" Shi Shengmo exclaimed in astonishment upon learning about Immortal Monarch's dominion for the first time. "That's not possible. The heavens would not allow such a technique to exist. Despite that, it exists. I watched him make a phoenix and a divine serpent do things that I'd rather die than do myself. And apparently, there used to be another man who had such an ability in ancient times. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any information on him." Shi Shengmo clasped his hands together as he tried to stop them from shaking. The power to command all creatures under the heavens. If other races were to discover this, Yuan would be in grave peril, hunted from all sides. Such an ability should never be allowed to exist, Shi Shengmo spoke with a somber tone. "I already warned him about it, but I still cannot help but worry." Shi Shengmo closed his eyes and sighed. "I'm more worried for our daughter, who will be following him. If you're thinking about, don't worry, I am not even thinking about it. She's already made her decision, and we made ours. No matter what happens from this point forth, it's the path that she chose to walk, and I will support it. Back in Yuan's room, Xiaohua suddenly asked him, Brother Yuan, when do you plan on leaving this place? Yuan had a dumbfounded look on his face when he heard Xiaohua's question. Now that you mention it, we've been here for a while. The nameless emperor's tomb should have been sealed shut by now. I wonder whether we'll emerge within the tomb, or find ourselves outside when we depart from this location. Anyways, we'll see if there's anything else for us to do here. If not, we'll make our way back. The following day, she merely knocked on Yuan's room again. Yuan, my parents would like to speak with you whenever you're free. I would also like to speak with them. Let's go now. Yuan said. Okay. Sometime later, she merely brought Yuan to her parents. Yuan, I scoured the entire library yesterday, but I couldn't uncover any additional information about the individual who might have possessed the same ability as yours. It simply mentioned the existence of such a person in ancient times and nothing more, Shimingzi reported. I see. Thank you for trying anyway. Yuan said. C1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons. Chapter 1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons 1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons Ahem. Shi Shengma cleared his throat and began speaking. Speaking of your unique ability, I know my wife already warned you, but I will warn you again. You must never let anyone know of your ability to command all beasts under heaven. Hell, even if you can only control half of the beasts out there, you will still be deemed a threat to beasts and be hunted by them from all over the world. I cannot stress how important it is that you keep that knowledge yourself, especially since my daughter will be following you from now on. Yuan nodded and spoke as he pounded on his chest. Don't worry, I won't let anyone that I want trust with my life know about it, and I won't even think about using it unless it's a life or death situation. As for your daughter, I will keep her safe even at the cost of my own life. She merely blushed after hearing his words, and she quickly responded, and I will do my best to keep out of trouble so you won't have to do that. Now then, there's one more thing I would like to tell you, Yuan, Shi Shengma said. Although we cannot tell you any more about this man from ancient times, I know where you may be able to acquire such information. In the fourth heaven, there exists a place called the Pavilion of Knowledge that is managed by the Xian family. They are of the dragon race and were great friends to my father. In fact, they used to work for him. Let them know that I sent you. The Xian family, correct? I will definitely look for them once I enter the fourth heaven. Good, because the Xian family specializes in record keeping and has vast knowledge when it comes to the world of beasts. If anyone knows about a man who can command beasts, it'll be them. You'll be leaving soon, right? Shimingzi suddenly said, deducting his plans before he even uttered a word about it. Yuan nodded. Yes, I came here by accident again, so I still have some unfinished business back in the third heaven. If there's no need for my presence here, I will leave. As much as I want to keep you here to be my sparring partner, I will have to wait for the next time you accidentally return to the ancient dragon city. Shimingzi chuckled. Yuan also laughed. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. In fact, I have a feeling that I will return here again. Even if I don't, I will make sure to visit when I have the time. If you ever desire to return to this place of your own accord, you can do so in the sixth heaven, where the gateway to this realm is concealed, Shi Shengma suddenly revealed. I may not be certain of the exact location of the gateway, but it will be situated in a domain where the influence of dragons holds sway, Shi Shengma elaborated. The sixth heaven? That's quite far away. Yuan mumbled to himself. Maybe to others, but knowing you, it won't take longer than 10 years for you to climb that far. Shimingzi smiled. Anyways, before you leave, I would like to throw a banquet. Do you think you can stay until then? It will only take a few days to prepare. Shimingzi continued. I can do that. Yuan nodded. Excellent. Then I will immediately start the preparations. In the meantime, do you think I can use your library? Yuan asked. Of course. You're essentially part of the family now, so you can treat this place as if it's your own home. Shi Xingma smiled. Thank you. Shi Xingma turned to look at Shi Meili and said to her, since you'll be leaving soon, you should start packing your things. I know. I already started. You seem eager to leave. Shi Xingma sighed. Obviously. I have spent too much time in this small world already. If you'd spent too much time, what about me? I've spent over 1,000,000 years in here. Shi Xingma shook his head. If you don't like it here, why don't you just leave? Are you still worried about the humans outside? Shi Meili asked. Hardly. I am staying here because it's my duty as its ruler. The people here need me, now more than ever. However, if the day that I am no longer needed in this world, I will leave. Father. Shi Meili admired his selflessness. If she was in his shoes, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to sacrifice herself for the people. Sometime later, Yuan went to notify Xiaohua and the others that they would be leaving after the banquet, and that he would spend the next several days in the library. Thus, for the next few days, Yuan devoted himself entirely to the library, immersing himself in the pursuit of knowledge. While the majority of the library's collection pertained to the Shi family and their history, there were also texts that chronicled the historical conflict between humans and dragons. The conflict started shortly after dragon goddess Yeyou met the immortal monarch, Tianyi. According to the texts, after the demons were defeated by the divine paragon, humanity desperately needed to rebuild its strength. Although the knowledge that dragon blood benefited humans greatly even before the demons appeared existed, not many people actually went out of their way to hunt dragons. Yet, a dramatic shift occurred when desperation gripped humanity. In their pursuit of survival and strength, humans began hunting dragons en masse, driven by the desperate quest to obtain their precious blood. Although blood from other non-dragon creatures also conferred benefits upon humans, it paled in comparison to the potency of dragon blood, a synergy that seemed ordained by the heavens themselves. Naturally, given the gravity of the crisis, rectifying this dire situation became the foremost priority for Tianyi. It was this endeavor that catapulted his name into the limelight and marked the inception of his enduring legacy. Regrettably, the historical records in Yuan's grasp remained silent on the conclusion of the conflict and omitted any reference to Tianyi, as the Shi family and many other dragons had ventured into the ancient dragon city long before a conclusive end was reached and Tianyi's name was spread. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.